And here we go. And here we are, everybody, back to the Choose Your Path series, where I have a very special guest tonight that is joining us with Pokemon Wonder. Thank you so much for joining here tonight. It's appreciated to get this back off the ground and get things moving along on it, and to be able to pick your mind and really have a discussion about another opportunity or a path in the Pokemon TCG and where you found success in the Pokemon TCG. So, as always, if you'd like to, give an introduction to the viewers of this, of where you are, who you are, and what your background is a little bit, before we get into the hard questions. Hold on. I'm going to have to stop you for 1 second. They're saying that you're on mute. And yeah, that's what they're claiming. So let me see here. Let me make one adjustment. We might be able to fix this real fast. Like I said, I can hear you just fine, but apparently you're not broadcasting. So what I might have to do, just give me 1 second, guys. This is the first time I've done this direction, so yeah. Oh, bass? He says no audio. Wait. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing here. So we might have to go back to the original planning here. Hold on, just when we thought we had everything all fixed, this is what happens. Yeah, I can hear you just fine. But no, you're good. I just can't hear you. They can't hear you for some reason. I don't know why it's not projecting you through. Let's see, properties. Let's do.
Nope.
Can you still hear me, Justin?
Yep, all good.
Okay. Can you guys hear him now?
How about now? Everybody okay? Audio coming through this time? Testing 1, 2.
Testing 1, 2. 1, 2 testing.
Here we are.
Nobody in the chat. They all left.
Yes, I'm done. Forget it.
Peace out, Obies.
Yeah. You guys get it together. Here we go.
Okay. I think I might have figured. Good. Okay, there we go. I figured out there was a setting was on mute in your collab. Okay, we're all good. Technology, you gotta love it. All right.
Appreciate it.
Why don't you reintroduce yourself, since they didn't hear anything of who you are?
So, my name's Justin. I'm currently hosting the Pokemon Wonder channel. Started this channel about a year ago. My background, in large part, is in tech. Left the military, the Army that is, in 1999-2000 timeframe. 11 Bravo, so infantry, airborne, jumping out of planes and shooting guns was my thing. But shortly thereafter, technology was always a thing. So as I got into the workforce, I jumped into a dyes and chemical company, which I'm still with today, 21 plus years, and jumped back and forth between the business and IT. And in large part, got a couple of degrees, a couple hundred certificates along the way, and very thankful for the opportunity and the experience that I've gotten. But then about a year ago, my sons, actually 3 years ago, my sons were asking for Pokemon. I'm like, nah, we're not getting into Pokemon. There's nothing there. It's just kid stuff. And then last year around October, I finally gave in. And when I did, it just reignited all the nostalgia that I had for sports, baseball, and basketball card collecting, which is what I did as a kid. And because I was born in '81. And it was just so much fun. There was so much more to Pokemon than I realized. And now I think I like it far more than my kids do. And we're going through this journey together. But happy to be here and looking forward to the conversation, Andy.
Awesome. Yeah, glad to have you here once again. I'd just like to thank you being the first one back on the new revamped Choose Your Path series and podcast. Once again, this was always designed to be a podcast for people to learn and hear from other people's perspective in the Pokemon TCG, the paths that they've chosen, and how they've been successful in Pokemon, because there are so many different directions that you can really take in this hobby.
Yeah.
And whether you're new, you're old, you've been here for 25 years, it doesn't really seem to make a difference. Everybody's had their own path and how they've grown and been really prosperous in this particular hobby. And of course, just to let everybody know, this is a new change to the Choose Your Path podcast, as we are live. So anything that the guest says this time will not be edited out. There's no mulligans in this particular run, but it gives the viewers the opportunity to be able to interact with this. And if you have questions in this particular part of the discussion, if you want to know some more information, definitely throw it up there, and try and pertain it to the guests, not me. If you can, and that would be greatly appreciated. And then that way we can maybe go into more detail in it if he's comfortable or wants to, or if the guest wants to go into more detail and really break it down for how they've been successful in those areas. Because a lot of times we had good questions come up in the premieres and in the comments afterwards, but with it being live, now we can capture that actually in the screen and have that in the discussion points for anybody in the future. So that's the goal of the podcast, is for a learning opportunity for people in the community. But so, are you ready to start breaking down into the questions here and start seeing where the chat goes with this?
Sounds good.
All right. So, as always, I always just kind of break it down with a pretty simple question: what did you do? What did you do before you went into Pokemon? But you already discussed that part of it with what your background history was. So, the next thing I always ask is what's the progression that you've made in your Pokemon business? Has it been something that evolved over time? Was it something that you just jumped into and just went right for it? And how did you actually progress, overall in the hobby since you've started?
Sure. And I can even speak here a little bit more to my background. I kind of skimmed over it really quickly. So I'm actually in the global process organization right now in terms of my day job. So I work a full-time job. I was in mostly the IT department, leading the global innovation department, which was mainly around global software development. Again, we're in the chemical space, but the most easy way to think about this is we make color. So if you go to Target, Victoria's Secret, you name it, Nike, pick up an article of clothing, we make the color for that. And so I designed a lot of the software that helps the color process be developed, approved, and then run into production, globally. So that's kind of where the background comes in terms of what I do for the day job. I was at the top of that kind of career path, and I realized, and I've been trying to start a few different businesses over the past 10 or so years. And some things were good, some things didn't quite work out as you would expect. But I saw kind of a cap where I was. We were talking about some C-suite positions a couple of years ago, 5 years ago. And I realized the gap between what I was doing and the offer that they had on the table. I'm like, this is not where I want to be. The time, the dedication, what it's going to mean to my family, it's not worth the trade-off. And so I started to look elsewhere in terms of making some additional revenue and kind of closing whatever gaps I thought there might be. Which, if we go back to then the point of Pokemon, get into your second question, When the kids started getting into it, I looked at it in a very different way. At first, I was just like everybody else that probably starts, and I was just ripping packs and having fun and opening with the kids, and started to look into then the TCG game and realizing there was so much more to it, to your previous point. And then I would say within the first 6 months, I said, well, there's probably something to this. And of course, like many of us, went down the rabbit hole of YouTube, found the Dans and the Northwood TCGs and the Jameses. Everybody was there, and I'm like, oh, okay, I see where this is going. And I said, well, since we're going to be spending some money on this, we're going to be looking at this for our family time, because we do, I'm sure, as you maybe heard me mention in my podcast, Pokemon Fridays, and we end up, if the kids do good in school, we go out, we have a nice dinner, we buy Pokemon cards, we open them all together. But we also all play. We all play TCG together. We all collect. Most of the binders behind me are both the kids, mine and my wife's. And then, of course, we run a business off of that. So we kind of run full circle. And from my perspective, I started in June and July of last year. And it's mainly been focusing on collection buyouts. Initially, was to fund my own collection, but also to have something for the kids and kind of build that up, because the first goal was to not take any money out of our personal account, let the business sustain the hobby, and then, of course, fund the collection. That was goal number one. And that was achieved within just a couple of months. But then from there, focused on binder and kind of collection buyouts, a few flips there, mainly a few grading just to kind of cover the costs. But then most of it went into raw. Jumped in quite heavy and hard, to be honest, in last year. And it was quite a learning curve and a journey, but I've loved every minute of it. Focused mainly on raw, to be fair. The majority of what I do is raw cards. Probably sitting at about 30,000, just shy of 30,000 singles on my store and TCG Player, which we can talk about later. But it's been quite successful. I think you and I even had a small exchange in our podcast, and a lot of benefit to be made in singles. People look at that as a grind and a hustle, and don't get me wrong, it is. I mean, sorting 30,000 singles is no small task. But it's where the margins are made, and it's also where I can build the decks, and we can work with the kids, and it really creates a lot of opportunity. So the graded cards are a very small percentage of that. And then the sealed product was just a couple of things I picked up along the way. So it was nothing major. But majority of all the success was around pushing the masses and the singles and looking at making those profit margins and, buying for, as an example, 10 cents and, selling for $1. And of course, percentage wise, that's pretty good. But it's mostly selling at market price.
Yeah. Yeah, and we did talk about that when I was in your podcast, and that has been, even in 2023, has been a majority of my actual business to this point in time. When I'm actually looking at growing a business, like you said, making that self-sustaining hobby. I wanted to stop taking money out of my family's account. How do I do this? Well, I've got all these collections, and like I said, at the beginning of 2023, it was a grind. That's where the grind comes in. Is when you go 2 years without doing any sorting of bulk. You've been buying collections, you've been piecing collections, you've been doing all these things for 2 years and done nothing with that bulk, and now you've got just bins of just unsorted bulk that you have to go and go set by set, alphabetized number, whatever your sorting system works for you. That is where the grind really comes in. Once you get through that, it really isn't all that bad. You just pretty much sit back and wait for TCG Player to notify you that there's orders. You go through your system and you find what you're looking for. It's a grind at first, but overall it's a one-time. Once you get the main bulk of your bulk gone through, it's usually fairly good. So
you gotta stay on top of it. So as a new set comes out and we're ripping packs, okay, I gotta get these on inventory as quickly as possible.
Well, that's
don't let the backlog build up.
And that's like, I was just talking to my wife. She's just like, every week you're doing like 3 or 4 booster boxes worth of bulk. What are you doing? I said, well, I'm opening like energy breaks on TikTok. So it's a whole booster box of Astral Radiance I got to do like every Wednesday, Friday, and, possibly Sunday. So it's a ton. I mean, it's just constantly keeps coming. But if you let it back up, then it's just a disaster. Then you're just trying to dig through all that again. And it's just not worth doing that. So,
totally agree.
Before we go any further, I just want to do a quick acknowledgement of the chat real quick, because I see there's a lot of good individuals in here. I see R&D Pokemon.
Fully agree.
Pokemoners right at the beginning. Thank you very much. I think he might be here, might not.
Exactly.
He was here early. iFOMO, as always, thank you, iFOMO, for being here on a Tuesday night and being part of the live. Brock Brother, thank you so much for being here. Of course, Basic Trainer. Mr. Walrus, as always, in the chat, doing his thing. Pokey Chef is here. Thank you so much for coming. And then the last I just saw came in was Professor Birch. Thank you so much for joining in. Oh, Brown, CLM. There's always somebody that's got to pop in right at the end. But thank you guys for all joining in the chat. And once again, this is interactive. You guys got questions on any kind of section that we're talking about that you want more information on, throw it up there. We'll definitely throw it into the live and give more information. And then, of course, Mr. Walrus. Yep.
Basics out there too. Yeah.
Yep, Basics out there. And Mr. Walrus wants to know, what's the tastiest color? I'm kind of curious.
Tastiest color?
Tastiest color. What's the tastiest color?
Red, my man. Red. Blood red is always the tastiest color. Go for blood every time.
Every time. So, but yes, like I said, thank you so much for the chat that's coming out there. As we keep going, like I said, I'll be pulling information if you guys have it out of the chat and definitely incorporating this into the discussion as we move forward. All right. The next question we usually go into is what was your final factor that made you go into the Pokemon business? Is there a certain thing that really drove you to do it? Was it because you're buried in bulk? Was it because you saw something in there out in the hobby? Was it a person or something that actually drove you into that particular direction?
Yeah. I didn't actually mention earlier, so I'm glad you kind of posed it in that way. One of the things my wife and I spoke about in the past probably 2 years, my kids are 9 and 5, to kind of give perspective of what I'm about to say next. Where time's flying by. She's an engineer by trade, so she works, for a large company. She's very dedicated to her job. And it consumes us. Anybody who's very career oriented, we know how that feels, and it's just very overall consuming. And then when you have 2 kids and they have all the activities and after school, it's a hustle and it's a grind. And she made some comments, and she and I sat down. She says, I would really like to spend some more time with the kids while they're younger, to really make sure I can try to capture that moment before they're older and they're gone and they leave the nest. So. As we were starting the business, I kind of looked at it from a financial standpoint. I said, well, it's doing pretty good right now, and I'm pretty happy with this. And so if I can use Pokemon to help give you the freedom to come home and spend some time with the kids, I think that would be my number one goal. Well, number one being not taking money from my personal account, obviously. But then number two, saying, well, let me now replace your income. So if I can replace that, that's really what drove me to push a lot harder into the Pokemon space as a business, because the YouTube channel and everything around it was really about that. You probably don't hear me talk about too much about what I do in terms of the business side. But as far as what I'm selling, definitely trying to help push that a lot more so I can help offset her income and then hopefully give her that freedom to come home. So that's the goal for 2024. And I'm thinking I can probably achieve that. So 2025, hopefully she can stay home and see the kids a bit more and give that dedicated time.
Yeah, and then that's a similar thing. Even like I said, it's kind of interesting how similar it seems like the last 2 years our paths have been really following a really similar trend. My wife is a stay-at-home mom, but the thing is that she has some student loans and things. It's just with 3 kids, trying to find a career that she can be flexible enough to be able to do the things with the kids and be able to deal with them being sick and all the things that happen with kids with the daycare and the cost of daycare. In northern Wisconsin, we really couldn't find a fit or a career that would really work for that situation. So we made the decision probably when our youngest was born, so 4 years ago now, that she would just become a stay-at-home mom. The one trade-off is that she does take care of the farm and she does take care of the garden. So she does produce food and stuff, which does reduce that cost of things. And that was kind of the trade-off, was we worked through that, part of it. But this year, that's the biggest thing is that you're talking about trying to use now Pokemon to maybe leverage some of your income in your home. And that's also something that was kind of a discussion we've had here at the beginning of 2024. We really worked at the numbers. And once again, this is where those paths can continue to kind of be similar, but you can go different directions at the same time achieve a similar goal. Um,
Exactly.
and and that's where our goal is too this year is that we are trying to start to use like this business, using TikTok, using the bulk sales and things like that to start promote some of the costs in the home because cost of living is
Yeah.
going up. And I don't want to take any money out of the house. Last year, I went self sufficient in the hobby completely. I wasn't pulling money out of my
Congratulations.
savings or anything like that, like I used to be doing just to
Uh,
try and continue to build inventory. Now I'm using
yep.
that inventory that I've created to start, building on that. Not just an investment idea anymore, just putting stuff on the shelf. It's now come to a point where it's got a part-time business hobby to just try and supplement some of that income into the home to help out. And once again, it gives you a little bit more freedom to be able to take those trips as a family to Charlotte, North Carolina for Collecticon or down to Chicago or do those kind of trips and things that we've been wanting to do.
We hope to see you here. Congratulations on the self-sustaining in 2023, man. It's a big step.
The, that was a lot of work, but like I said, it was actually impressive how much just the bulk side of things by doing that made a big change in that
Yeah.
perspective. And then starting to take some of my extra, because like I've always talked, I am an investment person. I like keeping this stuff back. I'm going to hold large positions in it, but I do have overstock. You're always buying that extra with the intent of trying to keep
Right.
$0 on the shelf at the end of the day. So what we'll do is just use that extra overstock that I intentionally purchased as an investment idea and using that to leverage that for a business aspect.
Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly. Yeah. And we can get into it later, but how we handle the inventory on that side and show the financial holding of the assets, I think is interesting too. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, definitely it is. So moving into the next question that we go into is typically I just ask people, estimate your hours worked to your income per month.
Mm.
How many hours per month do you roughly work in the hobby, and actually translate that into an income base, if possible. Like I said, it doesn't have to be like exact numbers. I just like to give people that are watching this a perspective of what you could potentially expect by just doing this as a part-time hobby, especially what you could spend in it and actually potentially get back out.
Sure. Sure. And just so we honor the chat here, I'll answer the question as well, real quick, Walrus. My favorite child is the one who listens that day.
Yours listen?
Well, usually through electric shock therapy, but at least one of them does.
One of them gets it.
That's
One
the
of them
favorite one for
figures
the day.
it out.
Yeah. So again, happy to be as transparent here as I told you in the pre-call. So happy to share all the numbers. And I'll break it down a little bit like this because I'm running through the financial year for 2023 and getting all the details together for taxes and whatnot. So it's kind of fresh on top of mind. As I mentioned, I ran through June, July-ish. Now I spent the first probably 4 months just getting inventory and buying things out, but I didn't launch the store until June or July. That's my reference point. So I actually started the business in January. So the official LLC, everything kind of kicked in. Bank accounts and all that kind of stuff was started back in January because I shut down the old business in December, which I had a separate one, which was more technology related. And then I started this one in January. When I launched the store to the end of December, I think I had roughly about 400 orders for the year to close. That equated to a little bit over 1,000 products shipped. And the average order total was about $16. And the profit there was around $30 per order. I typically now for the January alone, just in 2024, I'm looking almost at a third of that already in January. So January is moving pretty fast without doing really any advertising or any promotion. Just having, to your point, having the stores out there, having the inventory, building the reputation, people see good positive feedback, and that kind of starts to self-sustain itself while you're also adding weekly and monthly inventory. So those start to ramp up pretty quickly. So in this month alone, right now I'm sitting somewhere around $3,000 already, and about 200 orders just in January. So that kind of gives you an idea. I spend a lot of time in the business, and it just depends on how you want to carve it up and the nuance that you want to divide it by. Obviously, the the brand around Pokemon Wonder, making sure I have my face out there, I have integrity, and I'm obviously trying to be as honest and forthcoming to everybody that I talk to, and the podcast. That takes a lot of my time. The business itself, as far as sorting cards, inventory, order fulfillment, I go to sleep, and I talked to Rob about this at Rob at Red or Blue, so shout out to Rob. I go to bed usually when I don't do a podcast around 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning. And so I usually work between 3 a.m. to about 5:30, and then I start to get the kids ready for school. So there's about 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours. That's per day. And then after that, and get the kids back home, I usually do another 1 or 2 hours, and then I'll also take a run to the post office every day. So overall, I'd probably say I'd spend fair enough about 4 to 5 hours a day easily, 7 days a week. That's pretty much the number of hours I put in. But for me, it doesn't feel too much like work, because while I'm sorting bulk, much like you probably know, I'm listening to podcasts. I'm doing research for my next podcast. I'm taking notes. I'm doing research on what I want to buy next and sourcing. So it's always a little bit of multitasking. So it's not a fair distribution of time, but probably about 5 hours a day. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes when you're going the bulk route, that can be a very time-consuming thing, especially doing the sorting thing. The sorting side of things, that's where, when you sit there and get this much, that's where that robot really starts to be looking a little bit more interesting. Not gonna lie.
I was looking at the Roku, but I'm not there yet, man.
I'm not there either yet. Trust me, I've looked at it and I said, it's getting close, but man, my monthly is not gonna balance that out yet. And as you get bigger, that might be a thing, but that's the bigger thing is that when you're looking at that time aspect, and that's like we always talk about too. I'm always doing research for the next YouTube video. That's another big time factor for myself. And, like you're doing for your podcast, you're always doing research, watching the other creator stuff. So you have the background on every one of us. You do a lot of research, I know, on that, just catching all the stuff from the time that a lot of us have started in the hobby to today. I mean, it was impressive, the stuff that you were catching on. That's like, man, I even forgot that I even did that, something like that on the podcast when we talked. And it's a lot of work. You sit there. That's like I even talked about on yours. I mean, I'm always building spreadsheets and little, diagrams and graphs and things like that you're trying to lay things out to look at the progression of stuff that, you can't really work it into a video, and you don't see all that back work. A lot of times you just hear us discussing or talking about things. And I mean, it is time consuming work. It's just, it seems like you're working a lot. And, so far in January, I've had, just to give you a perspective, even on my side of things right now with TikTok sales and on TCG Player, I'm at about $4,200 right now in January. So January's been really, really hot going. It's been really, really good. TikTok has been really good for a good balance of that rip and ship where, like you said, you're out there, you're on the screen, you're in front of people talking about it. YouTube's kind of a loss at the end of the day. I figured that out because my wife and I were kind of curious about that, when we were talking about things. How much are you actually making on YouTube? And it's like, well, if I figure my hours put into it, I make about $3.18 an hour for the amount of time I put into it. And it's like, that's really a losing game at that point in time. But it's still, we're looking at the other part of it and what it does. People recognize your name. It's brand recognition. Right. If I go to Instagram, TikTok, or if I show up at a Collecticon and stuff, people recognize that recognition because you're out in front of people and they know that. And that's why it's a loss, but yet it's a gain at the end of the day, looking at the overall perspective of it. So, Sealed Products been doing
it's
really
free
well.
Marketing. It's free marketing,
Absolutely.
So, and granted, I don't push it, in terms of my store or anything like that, like I normally or I should, I guess I should say. But in terms of the brand and getting everything out there, building that name, building the trust, it's free. So all it costs you is time.
So I got a good question here from Professor Birch. Just put one up. And this is a really good one, actually, pertinent to talking about the bulk. With rotation coming, are you guys paying more attention to E-Block playable cards? How do you guys prioritize what to list on TCG Player, binders, and POS, or binder POS?
Great question.
Yes.
And I've heard you mention it before. I play as well. I know Andy, you play. We actually shared some secrets on what cards we're going to put in our decks in some upcoming tournaments. But it definitely is something on top of mine. And because I also play we play several times a week, every week between the house here. So I do keep a close eye on what's happening, but I also play online. So TCG online, if you don't play, definitely check it out. And for me, that keeps me on top of the game in terms of what cards are hot. But I also look at Limitless TCG. I know you mentioned that before, Andy. Limitless TCG is another place that you can go for, and you can look at the top decks that are performing. But you also in those decks look at the top cards. So if you're looking at the E block, see what's out there, see what's popular, what are people playing in what tournaments and where, and then because I sort all my cards by set. I'll know exactly what set those are in. I go grab those cards as a prioritization to get them in inventory as quickly as possible. And I'll speak a little bit later whenever you're ready, Andy, to talk about prices and how prices are managed. But I focus on those cards that are being used because I know people want them. They need them for the decks. They're going to the next tournament. And the quicker I can get those out there, the faster they sell, and they're of course the most liquid. I usually keep a couple for myself so that I have a few to play with. But other than that, I'll use Limitless. But I also watch a lot of the TCG content. So I'm watching Azul. I'm watching a few other people in the YouTube space just to kind of see what they're playing. But because they also give you the perspective as to what might be coming. So they're testing decks. They're looking at possible, upcoming decks that they want to try and play, and even for sets that are not released yet. So kind of keeping your pulse really helps you know, even as you get like Paldea and Fates coming in, what cards might be very playable, and having those, because I got more cards always to sort, but which ones are you going to do first? Which is really, I think, the question. So prioritizing those, I think, is a key through TCG. But yeah, E Block is definitely one of those.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm pretty much the same. I mean, like I said, I've even done videos where I talk about Limitless TCG because they are fantastic to see what's being playable right now, and then you can really get an idea for the direction of what cards might be even becoming more popular. You might see a card that was in two decks that aren't very common, but all of a sudden they were in two very competitive decks, maybe second and third place decks, and that gives you a very good feeling that, hey, if they've got the first, second, and third, they're going to shoot. Some of them, they're going to be added into other decks pretty quickly. So you can use that information to really prioritize which sets that you're going to be working on to maximize your time and get those cards out when the market needs them. I mean, because a card that's competitive today might not be competitive in a week, and it loses value really quickly. That's the thing about bulk is that, number one, if you can get it all out there, then you're in great shape because then everybody gets everything to pick from. But a lot of times using those things to really do that gives you the opportunity to really focus down on what's important and what's going to get you the best bang for your buck today.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. If you don't mind, Andy, I'll add just a little bit to that. Because I've learned a lot in the past year when it comes to having the 30,000 cards I mentioned in inventory. Now, granted, that slowly built up, but what I realize is, if you have everything listed right away, and mine always goes at current market price based on TCG player, as decks are progressing and becoming popular, you may get bought out before the price rise occurs.
Mm-hmm.
And so knowing what's coming, you may choose to have a few of those that you hold back to see if they're going to be popular. And even sometimes the fact that you have bulk waiting to be sorted and you're actually a little bit late to the game, if you're catching that at the time that the cards are popular, you actually may be better off financially. So it's a weird little mix of trying to understand what's happening, having everything listed. For me, to be honest, I say, well, hey, if somebody got that at 60 cents instead of $1.50, good for them. I got so much to sort. I really don't. I don't care. I hope they win the tournament, but there is a little bit of thought process that you could go into, especially if you're hand selecting, cards that you want to have that are going to be sold, that are going to be playable.
And exactly. I mean, sometimes it's good. That's why, typically I don't sort all of one set. I will sort probably half of a set sometimes, depending on how much I have. Even like, Astral Radiance and other stuff. I'm constantly opening new things and I'm buying new sets. So you're never really keeping up with it. And like you said, then you get an opportunity sometimes to see, like Pokemon Go. No, I don't think a lot of people realize how fast Pokestops disappear out of Pokemon Go. I mean, you
They
could
they,
list
they
them.
were popular here. Yeah.
They still are. I just put some more up because I got another big grouping of Pokemon Go that came through on a lot that I had purchased from here locally. And I was like, well, I'll just put them up there, and I put them back up there at $1. They were already listed at $1 before, $1.25 or whatever they were. But they're, I'm like, these things were really popular. So, oh my God, them things sold out in a day. At
Yeah. They,
$1.25, they
they,
were
they move quick.
gone. The
They move
next
quick.
morning, I had them all sold, and I had like 20 of them. They were gone. I mean, they disappeared extremely fast.
I
So
don't know if this is the same for you, Andy, and if you have this as a separate point, we can hold it. But I don't see that big of a difference. I thought I would because I felt TCG Player would be the place that the players would go primarily, and places like eBay would be more for the collectors and the flippers and other things, investors. I actually find because of the way I do my inventory, I get just as many or more orders on eBay than I do on TCG Player. So people are buying singles for their decks because it's very clear they're buying 3 of this card, 2 of this card,
yeah,
and so on and so forth. But I see a lot moving on eBay, far more than I thought. And again, at those prices, or even sometimes a little bit higher of a premium.
I have two. Listing them on both like I do. You definitely see it, it's still a little bit heavier towards CCG Player. Like you said, it does seem like a lot of
Mm.
times, and having a full inventory of stuff too really helps. Like you said, someone can come to one shop because my
Yep.
structure has been for quite a while that it's just a set price. I got 15, 20, 25 for most cards. Some really playable cards like the Judge cards from Fusion Strike I listed up
Right.
because you knew that they were going to sell and you didn't want to just clean them out immediately. You wanted to make a little bit of margin on those. But in general is that what I found is that people come in if you've got the full deck instead of people necessarily looking for that cheapest card. Once they pay that 99-cent shipping and they're in your shop because they want something that you had, I always call them their grabber cards. They're cards that you got that people want. They come and buy it, and then they're like, "Well, I'm
Yeah.
here. I've already paid 99 cents for the shipping. Well, he's got this card I need, and 2 of these, and 3 of these, and pretty soon
Yep.
you could see that they bought a deck's worth of cards off of you, going for those
Mhm.
specific things instead of going necessarily trying to find that one for 3 to 5 cents. They just buy them at 15 cents because, well, I already paid the shipping here. I might as well just use the store as the opportunity. I don't get that as much on eBay. eBay is a lot of times they'll just buy specifically the 3 cards that are the pricing that they're looking for, and then they're gone. So that's the one advantage I've seen a TCG Player versus eBay so far.
And I would fully agree with you. And if anybody here in the audience has not watched, or excuse me, has not bought on TCG Player, you wouldn't know it. But they have a cart optimization feature, and so as you're going through to buy, they will actually try to get you the best prices. Consolidate from. You have a couple of filters you can do there, but that cart optimization feature could land all the cards they have from other buyers into your cart based on overall prices, and back to his point, back on shipping. And that's something that eBay doesn't have. So there's no like cart optimization in eBay. So that definitely can funnel all the sales to you for a full deck for multiple people. And that definitely does give a lot of quantity when it comes to shipping out a TCG Player. Fully agree. Yep.
Yep. And that's just like I said, that's just something that I've noticed that's been very consistent when it comes down to it. Is that does happen on TCG Player. You could see someone just buys a whole conglomeration of product or the card sets right from you if you have them, rather than eBay. I get a lot of like you said, someone will buy 3 cards of a specific card and that's it, and then they're gone, and that's just
Yep. Same.
that's the
Same.
difference.
Yep. Fully agree. And I definitely don't get the higher dollar. I mean, every now and then I do, but the higher end cards, the cards that are $20, $30 each, they don't typically buy those on TCG Players often. It's definitely more eBay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. It is.
I
Let's
think
see.
Walrus had a question there about how much profit is eBay with ESE available than TCG Player. Did you want to take that one?
I'll let you go first on that one because I'm
Okay.
just trying to
Okay.
think about it honestly. If you know off the top of your head.
So there's about a 2% difference. TCG players sense a little higher in their costs. Um, and I'll be honest, I'm not at the point where I'm getting massive discounts. Now, I am a top-rated seller on eBay, but I haven't reached the TCG player levels where I'm getting any discounts or, I would say additional offers from them directly. So from that point of view, I'm still paying about a 2%, 2 to 3% difference between the two. So I do make a slightly better margin on eBay. Just because I sell more things. That's where I sell my graded cards. That's where I would typically sell sealed. So I just have more sales, more feedback, and that's really helped me out in terms of getting a lower fee, as that is. But other than that, the other thing for me is if you talk about the actual shipping perspective, eBay has it all built in. You're shipping out, your 63-cent labels, if I'm not mistaken, for anything under $20.
Yeah.
Whereas TCG player, you're go figure it out. Like, you have to figure out where to ship it from and how you're going to ship it. A shout out to Shiny Cards and Collectibles. Ray gave me a great piece of advice on one of the early podcasts. Yes, you should use Orange Mailer. Orange Mailer, give you a really good price. And so if you're shipping for platforms outside of eBay, I've used Orange Mailer, and for that it's 66 cents, per envelope, which then of course gives you the 4x6 label, which has the address and everything on it. You don't need to write it. You don't need to have the windowed envelope or anything like that. You just print the label, slap it on, you're done. And that's what I use for anything going TCG player. And my prices for shipping is 99 cents on TCG player, and the standard 63 cents on eBay. So I do actually make a little bit of profit margins. My cost is interesting. My cost to ship, including the shipping label, is $1.04. So for upwards of about 20 cards is about the maximum. A little bit under 3 ounces is what you want to do. I can ship about 20 cards for $1.04.
Yep.
And so of course you can, but I make a little bit of better profit margin on TCG player in terms of shipping, but of course the fees are a little bit higher. So I still prefer to go with eBay when I can.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think typically for me, they about balance out because of the shipping. That's what I was trying to think of on the shipping side of things. Because typically on TCG player, a lot of times just a plain white envelope, and you stamp it in a plain white envelope.
Are you a PWE guy?
I'm a PWE guy, especially on bulk cards, man. I am not going to sit there and send bulk cards in a bubble mailer. I mean, if you're buying like rainbows and some of the high-end cards, absolutely. I go right to the bubble mailer. But I do protective measures on them. I mean, the biggest thing, I don't even have them up here. I took them upstairs to get them. I keep these little brown envelopes, which these things have been fantastic. They're just a nice little envelope. I seal them in there nice and tight so they don't move, and then tape them to the back of the paper. So I do everything right. I've never had anybody complain about the shipping. If they're hollow or reversed, they're sleeved. I put them in penny sleeves, so everything's safe. I've gotten extremely good ratings by doing that, just as long as you take those little extra steps. People that just drop them in them. I've done that, bought cards, and they just throw them in a white envelope with no protection on them at all. It's like, man, if these were playing cards, or if I was looking for these for a set, I'd be a little bit angry. But I mean, they're set cards to begin with. But yeah, doing no protection.
Full of Dan.
Yeah, full of Dan. I mean, you get 200 of these on Amazon. I think 200 of these in a pack are like, I think the whole pack is like $8 or something like that. So it's minuscule amounts.
I can show you my materials if you want.
What's that?
I can show you my materials if you want.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Put it up here. Tape does not sound right, gonna lie. No, you want to tape it to the paper, Walrus. You don't want it to be sliding all over the envelope. I'm not saying tape the cards. I'm saying tape the envelope, not the cards to the back of the paper. Yeah, just to be sure, don't tape the Pokemon cards to the paper.
So I use these recycle envelopes. They're self-seal.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll
put everything in terms of cards up to 5 cards each, just into a typical card saver. Of course, I penny sleeve everything, and then I put the card saver inside of this. And that way, if it rains a little bit, the mail guy's delivering something, or you get a leaky mailbox, your cards don't get ruined. And then I put that in, and I'll wrap the invoice around this, and I'll fold it nice and neat so that it slides in with the invoice right in there. And then, of course, I'll then seal the back of it and then put my logo on the back, just with a sticker. And I've gotten the most compliments about, my wife put this all together originally, because I asked her to give me something, that's nice, it's branded, it looks good, and it gives me a perspective of, trying to build the brand and, of course, give a quality product. And I've had the most comments, you can check out my eBay, on the quality of the packaging and everything being delivered, safely, which is my top priority. And that, again, everything I showed you there is basically breaks down to $1.04.
Yeah. And see, I do that for like the higher end cards. If you're going for V or better, I'll put them in, like you said, they go in these and they're protected inside of the,
Yep.
I got the little baggies they go inside of. Those are protected and they go in a bubble mailer or a nicer shipping. But if you're just buying like Pokestops and you're buying 20 Pokestops, I'm not going to go and spend that kind of.
That's $20.
Well, I know it's
$20. And that's what I asked myself. I say, am I willing to spend, in the case of eBay, $1.04 to ship you $20? And I know that I didn't pay $20 for those cards. So I'd rather spend $1.04 to make sure you get those cards safely delivered and you're happy with that product than to try to say, I want to make a little bit extra profit margin for $1. I said, no, I'll do that. And that's the other thing that you and I talked about is it's not like I'm getting, I misspoke to you, actually. I realized that when I was doing my finances. My floor on my cards were not 15 cents. They were 10.
Okay.
So my floor on TCG Player is 10 cents. And people worry about that. They say, well, you want to fulfill an order for 10 cents? I've never fulfilled an order for 10 cents.
No.
First of all, you have the shipping, which is 99 cents.
Yeah.
But nobody orders one card. Nobody.
No.
I've always had multiples, and TCG players usually, to Andy's point, is 5 and up because they're buying 3 or 4 for the set, for the deck. So they're not buying just one card, and they want to get that free shipping. So at that point, you're shipping usually $5 and up. So at that point, throw in some nice shipping labels and make sure everybody's happy.
Yeah. And like I said, it all comes down to, as long as they get there safe, that's my biggest thing is that I'm not the guy that's just going to throw them into an envelope and hope for the best. Sayonara, hope for the best. At least I put some things on it, and I've got my label that goes across the back so that they're protected in there. Okay. Like you said, if you are doing $20 or more, yeah, you're right. Pokestop was a bad one, but I've had people buy like the most craziest singles off of there. Like I had someone, I think they were trolling me. They bought 2 Weedles. From Chilling Rain. And it's like, why did you buy 2 Weedles from Chilling Rain? I'm not, yeah, you paid
Thank you 30, for the 30 cents, but
yeah, thanks for 30 cents, but why did you buy 2 Weedles? You could have bought 2 packs of Chilling Rain, taken a chance at something and got 2 Weedles. I mean, realistically. But I mean, it's just those funny things is that, if they're paying $20, then I always upgrade the order. But like you said, you get those orders that are like 3 cards that are just, you can see that they're like a trainer or something like that. That's 15 cents, and you've got a total in there. You always got to play that game, trying to make the most profit margin out of it you can, because, and to your point, I've had one person buy 1 card from me in the last year. Otherwise, everybody's buying 3 to 5, even 10 cards a time. So it doesn't happen very often. Technically, even at 15 cents. If you figure the plain white envelope, the stamp, and everything else like that, if someone were to buy 1 card, you are literally making nothing. It's a zero. Yeah. It ends up being a 0 order at that point, even with the plain white envelope and doing it for the, 78 cents to ship it that way that I have into it.
And I want to make sure that we tie this together because you made a very good point earlier that makes this possible. If I was fulfilling, 30-cent orders all day long, I would stop because that wouldn't be, it wouldn't be profitable for me to do so, and I would probably be losing money at some point. But because you can get the numbers of your inventory high enough in terms of I would say, variety and the quantity of products, people then will always buy more from you. So that's the key point to make that whole thing viable. The more variety and more quantity you have that's in demand, then of course they're going to buy more from you, and that way you don't get that 30-cent order. You get the $5 order instead. Yeah. They did the cart consolidation. via TCG player, and next thing you know, it's not a concern. And so those two things combined, I think, are key. Unless you're selling just high-end products that are dollar plus, and then you're fine. It's a non-issue.
Yeah, then everything's fine. No, that always works out well. And if you do that scheme, but there again, I tried doing that the first. So 2 years ago, I was always just trying to list like V's and better, anything that was going to be $1 or more, and I found that my profitability by going to full bulk has been way surpassing trying to just hit them high-end card sales that you could have on there.
It's counterintuitive. Mm-hmm. And you to your point, like all the work's up front. I mean, now that I have the cards in inventory, I'm just maintaining what we open and any new product we purchase. Which I mean, I always have a stack of stuff to do. Don't get me wrong; it's not like I'm empty. I'm like, oh, I'm done with work. It's always there. But I would definitely say that having those mass amounts of quantity is the difference. And I'm even okay because of that, because I have so many orders that come through that are not 30-cent orders. When I do get one, it's okay. Like I'll just fine. I'll take a loss, and he got away and I lost 10 cents. Whatever it is, and I spent 1 minute fulfilling the order. Not a big deal. But if it was the other way around, I would have to change my business model a little bit.
Yeah, it isn't consistent. As long as you have a variety. When I got over 15,000 cards on my shop, that's when I really started to see the 30-cent orders, the 1-card, 2-card orders completely just started to vanish. It's like once you started having full variety of 7, 8, 9 sets, the single card orders disappeared, and it started going to 5, 10 card orders, which then makes it able to go to the better packing. You're able to do those things to be able to pull that off. I mean, so yeah, there's definitely options in there. There was one question here that it came up, and I was going to ask you, Gimbo Slice, thanks for joining too. I saw him come through. Wonder, do you have your own website?
Me? Yes. Hey, Jimbo Slice, good to see you. But I saw you in the stream earlier today, so good to see you hopping around. So I do. We have PokemonWonder.com. So it's a Shopify store. It's actually the baseline. And if it's okay with you, Andy, I can kind of explain how everything kind of is tied together.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so one of the things, me coming from a tech background, is while I'm willing to spend my time sorting bulk and going through that process to get them organized, and because I can't afford a Roka, the other parts of the hobby, I don't want, in terms of selling, I don't want to spend my time managing prices on 30,000 products. That's just not realistic. And if I did, I just wouldn't do it. I would just say, never mind, I forget. I'll just sell graded cards and I'll be done with this. But because of the technology perspective, that's what allows me to do this at the size that I do. So I run Shopify primarily as the center point for all order integration. I manage all inventory through Binder POS. Now, Binder POS is a separate platform. It manages your inventory and it synchronizes it to Shopify as the primary store. You have to actually have, maybe they changed it now, but when I first signed up, you had to have Shopify in order to use Binder, because that's how it integrates the orders and everything else. But then from there, it then integrates outward to TCG Player and eBay. You can do others as well. They can do Magic. They can do many other types of TCGs. I'm only doing Pokemon, but that's what I use it for. Binder POS is about $100 a month, flat fee for the software itself. And then you pay, there's some small percentages per how many cards you synchronize per month. So there's months that I was doing 10,000 cards and, I'm paying 0.02 cents, per card. I have a small additional fee to the 100, but the 100 is a baseline and then a small synchronization fee. But the beauty of this is, and people also maybe had some thoughts about this in the past, that, if I don't take pictures of the actual cards, people won't buy them. I'm going to get 100 messages of people asking me to take pictures and send it to them. I don't do that. Binder POS takes care of all the images. You can templatize all of your listings. Every listing on eBay and TCG Player is then automatic. So I basically go to Binder POS. I got 100 of these. I got 10 of these, one of those, whatever the case is. Typical near mint, lightly played, heavily played, all those different types of listings. And that's it. You basically hit submit, and it does it all for you. I don't have to manage spreadsheets. And the beauty of it is it synchronizes every 12 hours for the prices. So every 12 hours on singles prices, it updates based on what the market's doing. So I don't have to manage 30,000 singles. I let them do it, and I pay them for it. And it kind of goes back to a comment you made in the podcast we had, Andy, around TikTok and Google. Like, I've had some integration issues with my Shopify store with TikTok because, they had the integration. They said, hey, you want to turn it on? Yeah, sure. Fine. Turn it on. Sell products in another store. Why not?
Yeah.
Well, then because I didn't fill in some extra columns and categorization that was very specific to TikTok and Google, they said, oh, your store has been banned because you basically didn't meet the requirements and so on. So I said, well, whatever. I'm not dealing with that right now. So if it doesn't come into my Shopify store and automate into a single location, I don't want to deal with it. So I'm not going to manage orders from separate platforms. I'm not going to manage separate inventory. It's just not going to happen. So if it doesn't fit into the current model, or I change models completely, then I'm just not going to do it. And for me, every order in TCG Player and eBay and Shopify all comes into Shopify. So I only have one place to go to, only one order to work with. Now, I do have to jump between where I want to get the shipping labels for the cheapest, but other than that, everything else is automated, so I don't have to worry about it. And the other thing is that TCG Player, as I said before, has a baseline of 10 cents per card, whereas eBay, it's $1. I don't do anything under $1, but then my store does everything, even if it's a penny. So the most products are on the store. Probably the second most products are going to be on TCG Player, and then the third is going to be on eBay. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the integration. So as far as I know, and I'm going to concur with you on this, I have a Spotify account or a store, but it's not active.
Shopify.
Or Shopify, sorry, not Spotify. Shopify. No, you got to have a podcast on Shopify. So if you got Shopify, mine's not active. So even if you don't activate it so that it's visible, you still have to have a Shopify account where it is that central location for Binder POS. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. You have, as far as I know, they haven't changed that to this point in time, that you do have to have a Shopify account. You don't have to make it active. So if you don't, I don't have sales coming through my Shopify account. I just have them going through eBay, through TCG Player. Now I'm doing TikTok. Yeah. But like I talked to you, TikTok, I just individually list items that I'm looking for there rather than trying to integrate.
You're hand picking, and it's really built around your break, right? I mean, it's not like you have things that are selling when you're not breaking it, are you?
I do, yeah. No, I have. Yeah. So during the breaks, I have break items that I actually draw in for the lives, and then I actually sell sealed products. So I'm always have sealed product listed all the time that you can purchase at any point in time, and I just ship them throughout the week whenever the orders come in. So that's actually, it works both ways. I mean, I have it both ways on there, so I just shut off the live stuff that's going to be ripped and shipped, because they do give you only 3 days to get stuff out the door. So that's a catch to TikTok is that they're very, I will say, people are worried about TikTok, and there is this big, consumer fear that, TikTok's Chinese and they don't care about anybody. They actually really do protect the customer really well. And, they are really good for the sellers too, but they do protect that buyer and make sure that stuff is actually being done in a timely fashion. You can do, like today, I just got a notification because southern Wisconsin got, freezing rain and snow this morning, fairly treacherous roads where shipping was going to be delayed, that they allowed us to have 5-day shipping now for the next 2 days. So if you order, I got 5 days now to get it out the door instead of 3. So, which is awfully nice of them. But yeah, that's just things that they actually do to protect both the buyer and the seller and make sure that things are going through.
Fully agree.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'm looking through. That was the one question I haven't tried yet. Does Binder POS work with Japanese cards? I have not tried.
No.
I didn't think so.
No, I didn't even look. And that's why all my Japanese is sitting. I'm waiting.
I got a whole bin. So,
yeah. I'll just hold them. I mean, I have some that are just for personal collection as well. Some of the older stuff. But I have a large amount that's actually there that I'm just going to wait until they actually offer that in Binder POS. Because again, I'm not taking pictures. I mean, I'll take that back. On graded cards, I do take pictures because even then I use the PSA photo, to be
That's
fair.
what I
So
do.
I don't take another photo, but I
No.
use what's from PSA, and I do a little bit of a manual photo editing there. But other than that, even sealed product from Binder POS and singles, they do all stock photos. They take care of everything for you. But no Japanese yet. So hopefully coming soon.
Okay.
Fingers
I
crossed.
hadn't even looked because my assumption was no, because there isn't a
Yeah.
typical sales platform right now that really does Japanese currently in the
No.
English market.
Yeah.
So I didn't think that they would have that built into it. I just saw the question and I figured it was good to see if you
No.
would see it,
Yeah.
but I had not.
I asked them. I reached out to my rep and I said, "Hey, can we turn on Japanese?" He said, "Yeah, I'm sorry, we don't have that as a feature yet." I said,
Okay.
"Shucks."
So all right. Well, it looks like we're pretty much caught up on the chat for the questions, so which was good. I mean, this was all good tying into that whole business base and how everything is. And these are questions that I definitely wanted to catch in the lives because they are very, very pertinent to the overall conversation and the direction you go and how you do your business. So, thank you everybody once again for the discussions. Definitely worked out very well. Now we're going to move into the next part of it, which is always the tougher one sometimes that I like to ask. But it's really good for some of the people that are, newer to this hobby to build maybe a little bit more successfully without potentially the pitfalls, which is what is one mistake that you've made that you could advise others that are on the same trajectory and in the same direction to avoid to, move a little quicker, or maybe not have the same pitfalls that we did?
Mm. Um, I'm a person that I go all in, and I go in hard. So as an example, the amount of content that I consume in Pokemon right now, and how deep I go into the hobby, I'll probably catch or surpass most people that have been in it for a decade or plus. By year two, I will probably have built that knowledge up and experience up, just because I don't like to do things kind of partially. If I didn't have to have a full-time job, I probably wouldn't. I would just do these kind of things and go from different hobbies. So it is a double-edged sword. So I can get up and running really fast, make lots of mistakes, and learn from those. But it's something that really makes me force myself into a couple of bad positions at times. Mine was, to be honest, it was a little bit cliche. I got a little bit of FOMO early in, and I bought a little too much too fast. And so in my case, a lot of interest-free, loans, so I'm not too concerned about it. But I did jump in just a little too hard, too fast, and I wish I would have taken a little more time. There were some other things I wanted to buy, and because there were some really great deals, I couldn't pick up that binder, that collection that I want to buy for $1,000 or $5,000, because my capital was already tied up into some other things that I was not even planning on selling anytime soon. I was actually planning to wait and hold it for a couple of years before I even sold it. So because of that, I missed some opportunities that I really wish that I could have had. And so my one mistake is, trying to balance, be both liquid, but also churn the profit and churn the product, on a given month from a business perspective. And that would allow me to capture those deals and perhaps even be better off than I am today. But it's all part of the learning experience, and I'm
Yes.
thankful to be a part of it and be here. So, yeah.
And I think that's a big discussion that a lot of people are doing now, in 2020 and 2021, almost through most of 2022, even into 2023, we had almost a buffer in the market where there was just so much turning that you could always make a mistake, and it was almost like a get out of jail free card a lot of times on it. Yeah, it's okay. You just wait 3 months and you'll be fine. It's not a big deal. And these are always just these systematic things that, people have become accustomed to a lot of times that, like for myself, starting in 2019 and going through before that whole boom and everything that happened, really getting back into Pokemon beforehand and starting to buy Hidden Fates and buy those, Cosmic Eclipse and really start to purchase Sword and Shield base and starting to go back and purchase some of those older sets because there's opportunity, you could see it, but once again, you didn't want to, like you just learned, you don't want to sit there and tie up all of your money into that investment and into that long-term hold. because when an opportunity is in front of you, you want to be able to capitalize on that, because
Yeah.
sometimes some things just show up that are just so good, and then you're trying to
Yeah.
scramble to figure out, how am I going to get the money to do that? Where am I going to pull money from to do that? I got to do something because I
Exactly.
really want that. And it's not necessarily, a good thing overall for business, especially if you are looking at it from a business aspect. If you're trying to make money in it, keeping a good percentage of your money. So typically right now, just to give you an idea, and you can maybe put your number on it for liquidity to, what I'm holding to actually be solid money. It's about a 25 to 75 ratio right now. I have about 25% of my money tied up in things that I don't plan on selling anytime soon. They're either items that I
Mm.
think will be a good long-term hold and they'll have some good value in 5-10 years, or they're, items that they have liquidity, but I don't want to get rid of them right now because I see further advancement on those particular products. But the other 75%, I'm just constantly using it to leverage, buy, you know, stock and be able to turn stock and buy it from wholesalers or wholesaler pricing wherever I can get it and bring it
Mm.
in to be able to do those flips. Get my live stock to be able to make that 15 to 20% every time that I go live on these particular items, because I'm going to
Mm.
just buy more and continually keep replenishing and moving through.
Would that 75% be also accurate to state that that's moving or constant moving inventory versus
Yes.
long term? Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So from that perspective, I'm not too far off. I'm probably a little bit more. I would say I'm probably more of I'd say 60-40,
Okay.
maybe 65-35, something like that. In terms of my split, where the 35 would be long term, longer hold things. And when I talk about longer term, yeah, I have some of the earlier Sword and Shield stuff for sure. Even some of the later stuff, mid stuff. But I also spent some decent money in XY and Cinnamon, because when I came in, I saw quickly that was going to be something that we wanted to capture. Prices were relatively low. Some of that I already sold because back to things we all say in this hobby when you're doing business, the price was right. I mean, I bought a lot of Team Up at the time. I had bought it, to give you an example, I had bought it at $700 or $800 a box. I bought a couple of cases of it, and sold it at $2,000 a box. And that was the market price, 1,900 to 2,000 a box. And as those came up, I was like, okay, well, I'm comfortable with that, and that's more than enough for me, and I'll put that into something else. And so back to the point where I had too much tied up, this gave me some freedom to do some other things. And I didn't mention it earlier. My operations costs for everything, website, binder POS, some of the smaller subscriptions and things just to make the business run, is about $200 a month. So as long as I make $200 a month as a pure profit margin, I'm okay with anything above that. But that $200 a month is actually what it costs me just to run all the systems, all the details, all the technical background, software that I use for
Yeah.
video editing, all the basic operational costs. Yeah.
And I'm running a little bit leaner than that because, I mean, I got binder POS, but I really don't have a lot of other technological things. I mean, I could say, Streamlabs, but once again, that's where you kind of break things down. Is that technically for the business side, or is that for the YouTube side of things? And if I wasn't doing YouTube, would Streamlabs really still be on my computer? Probably not. TikTok has a good
Right.
live function. I really don't need it for TikTok. I just use it because it gives me more versatility and more viewability. But there's all these costs, and you could really break it down. And I'm still not too far off. I think I'm about $162 a month with binder
Okay.
POS, Spotify, all the other
Yeah.
things that are running in the background between to keep things going. So, like you said, as long as I'm making around
Shopify.
100. Why do I keep saying Spotify? Wow, I am stuck on Spotify, aren't I? Shopify. Jeez. My brain is stuck on Spotify. I was listening to Spotify earlier while I was working, so
That's why. That's right.
Yeah, I was
They
cranking the
embedded
tunes on the
commercials.
job site. But yeah,
I fully agree, though. Yeah, mine's and to be fair, mine's I'll give you the running list here. It's Canva for all my video editing or photo editing. Microsoft, which I use for my email because I have a professional domain. So it's Pokemon Wonder. So I got my domain plus the email, the BOA accounts, the Bank of America accounts, Shopify, YouTube, my PO box, Binder POS, my SSL certificate, PSA. I pay for that yearly membership, my eBay store, and then my variable cost on Binder POS. So all that kind of goes into it to make about $200 a month.
Yeah, because I really have Shopify. Made sure I said it right that time. I got Shopify. I've got Binder POS. I don't have a domain, so that's one of the cost savings I have. Is that I don't have my own domain. I just use Gmail currently. I just haven't branched out that far into things. And then my business licensing is really just a general. I just have a general a general proprietary, so single or sole proprietor. So my licensing per year is actually fairly cheap. It's only $35 a month here or a year here in Wisconsin. So those are all little things that could really change the overall, the overall movement on the actual pricing. So that's where I can just slim down a little bit because I didn't go LLC, because you could. I looked at that and I talked to my tax accountant for our main business, and she just kind of went, why? What benefits do you get to the LLC versus that? I mean, is someone going to get hurt with a booster box of Pokemon cards? I mean, are you going to have people on your property, that could slip and, die on your sidewalk? These were all things that she asked, and I said, no, it's all online. Nobody's coming here. Chances are is that it's not my product anyways. So like she said, there's always that break on it that if they do get hurt, get a paper cut, an infection, that they're going to go after the manufacturer, not you. There's all these things. And she just kind of broke it down. She went, yeah, it just makes sense to go with the sole proprietor. There's really no reason to spend all the money on the legal stuff for the $500 for the LLC and get that all written up for what I was doing. So and that makes differences. I mean, there were just some little things that, once again, we're not far off realistically, No. $162 to $200. I mean, that's really not a huge savings, but it's still enough over a year to where it slims down a little bit.
What is that? That's yours per year or per month?
For what? The
160.
The 160 is per month. That's about what I need per month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not far off then. Yeah. $40 a month is the difference. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, granted, it's like $480, almost $500 by the end of the year, but it's still not a huge in the course of business for what we're actually probably putting through. No. In my projections for 2024, it's really not going to be that big of a number.
If somebody saves me from changing prices on 30,000 products every 12 hours for $1,000 a year, I'll pay it every year.
Yep. I'll pay it. Binder POS is such a savings on that fact.
Yeah.
Just let it do its thing.
Count me in. Yep. No problem.
I'll pay your monthly fee. That's all right.
Yeah, exactly.
Going back to the business side here, really quick, Pokemon Wonder. I got a question from Mr. Walrus. I don't know if you saw it back here. And I thought it was another interesting question. Is grading a focus for your business in 2024?
I struggle with that a little bit, to be honest. Focus, I would say I'm a lot more focused on what cards I grade. I use 2023 for me to really get my head around how and what I want. I did a lot of really weird things in terms of what I sent in because I just wanted to see what would happen. I wanted to see the grades. I wanted to see how long it would sell. It was more of like a test to the market and a test for me as a individual and a, I would say, business owner. In 2024, it will be, I would say, a solid 20-30% of what I do in terms of business, but it will be very focused on which cards and how I do it. Whereas in 2023, I was a bit more lenient. I was sending some things just to see what they would do. And granted, people joke about, oh, your PSA 5, 6, 7, 8 slabs, they won't sell. They sell. And I'm not doing junk slabs. I'm not doing mystery boxes or anything like that. They sell. People want them. And as long as you got them priced right, back to Dan's comment, good slabs, priced right, they sell. But I'll definitely be a lot more focused in 2024. But I do plan to do about 20 to 30% of my overall business will be in slabs. But I love the perspective of supplying the singles to the market. And I've talked about distribution a lot. I don't have it. I won't get it anytime soon because I don't have a brick and mortar, and I think there's some windows open nowadays, especially with the market prices being a little bit lower and inventory's high. I might get in, but I'm not interested in taking in product that I don't want to sell or product I have to sit on. And so for that reason, I'm not jumping into that bucket just yet. I think that might be a 2025 deal for me. But it's going to be a largely singles and graded for the most part.
Yeah. Distribution side of things for me, I just got in. It's not that I shouldn't say I'm fully in with the distributor. I have access now to some pricing for distributor.
Okay.
So I kind of weaseled my way in because once again, with the product overload that there currently is, they've been willing to work. But what I am finding is that even for distributor, a lot of times, like booster boxes of Obsidian Flame, Paradox Rift, all those, you can buy them cheaper on the open market than you can right now from a distributor.
Right.
Because it's even me looking at the distributor pricing, and I know I'm not getting like the bottom, I'm not getting like Mason at Cardinal Gaming pricing, on a booster box. I don't have that volume, or Rudy or any of those individuals. I don't have that kind of volume. But, so I'm on like the tier, like a C tier is what they call it. So it's not like I'm getting bottom dollar pricing. But it's still, for me to buy like Obsidian Flames from a distributor, price per booster box is $95. Well, I can go out on, TCG Player right now or eBay and be able to get a case of Obsidian Flames for around $88 a booster box. So once again, there is a huge advantage to that. Where I'm seeing the advantage in the pricing on stuff is like the 6-pack bundles and certain types of those products where there's a little bit more demand for them. And when you can buy them 6-pack bundles from a distributor for $17.50, even so, I can go sell them for $25, be under Walmart pricing, and still have some good, pricing and markup on there, to where I'm making my 15 to 20%. Where you can't get that, that's hard to find those.
And there's two perspectives that I think about when you tell me that story. Is one, I would take that if I'm able to do it at a smaller amount and keep a decent relationship. I would take a slightly higher than market price in terms of what I'm buying, just so that I can have the relationship once the tables turn and Pokemon, changes print demand and we have other sets that pop off, and then those prices are actually better than what you get on the open market. And so I'd be willing to build that relationship today, but not at the commitment of spending, whatever, 20 grand a month. It's like, I'm not really ready to spend 20 grand a month. So you might have to hook me up with your deal there, Andy.
I could, like I said, I can give you, I'd be willing to let you in on some of it and see what we can do, because like I said, some distributors are starting to feel a little bit of a pinch. The market isn't as liquid as it used to be, getting it out of their warehouses either. So, and Pokemon continually brings new sets. So, sometimes they'll give you some access to some things by just, once again, talking and bugging them. I always go back to what Joe said when he was on here, and he said the way that he got in with his was he literally emailed everyone 6 times, and finally Southern Hobby just went, fine, I will give you access if you just stop emailing us.
Leave me alone.
Leave me alone and we'll give you access. So he always laughed. He said he just kept bugging them. I mean, eventually they just broke down and just said, just stop emailing here. From Echo-based collectibles, that was always a funny one. He just said, I just kept bugging them until they eventually gave in. And that's... I don't want that kind of relationship, Brian but it was funny. Who did that?
Brian at Pokey. Shout out to Brian. He did the same thing. He did it via phone call. So he just called, and they eventually gave him a relationship. But he had a solid, business already built up at that time. So he was doing really well on the Japanese side before he would try to get an English, distributor.
Yeah. I'm going to check through chat because I saw a couple questions fly by. Sure. Because there was one from Ernie. Thank you, Ernie, for joining in on the chat. One question he had is how do you determine what goes into the collection? So for me personally, when it comes down to collection, I don't consider that even part of the business. Typically, I use my money or make it as a payout to myself from the business to buy that collection piece, but it's really not encompassed into the business. It's kind of broken out. that's kind of been me, because if I'm keeping it, if it's planning on staying here as my collection piece, if it's something I'm just putting like back behind me, like this stuff, then a lot of that's still for sale. If someone wanted it, like I have, Champion's Path right now, that's why it's actually in here, is between breaking on TikTok and selling the sealed boxes. They're just continually rolling through. So it's nice to have them in the house where I don't have to go run down to my storage spot and pull it all the time. But there is a little bit of a separation for me. I kind of just break it out and use it as a breakout, pull it out of the business, because for me it's always really hard to keep collection pieces as part of the business side of things. Number one, for tax reasons, and number two, it to me, it just makes it cleaner at the end of the day. Just keep those collection pieces set aside. And like Flareons, I'll buy Flareons with a lot of those things are things I'll use my own personal money for too sometimes. If I wanted something, I will pull it out of my savings account or whatever. It works both ways for me personally.
Yeah, so this is a fun one because I think about this a lot, and I say it all the time. I watch a lot of our favorite content creators, as the majority, not all, but the majority of them lose their collection to business inventory, and then therefore forget they ever had it.
Yep.
And it just becomes a memory, of what I used to have, and I used to have this binder, and I used to have the WotC collection, and well, you don't anymore. It's gone. You've sold it. And so for me, I've really, because one of the things I've really tried to navigate with this journey is to keep it fun and enjoyable. I'm not selling, and I'm thankful for this, and I don't mean it in any negative way. I'm not selling today because I have to, and I have to pay the light bill and put food on the table. And thankfully, I still have a full-time job that does that for us. My wife does as well. So that gives me the freedom and the opportunity to look at this a little bit differently. But one of the priorities that I have in terms of running the business and being a part of the Pokemon community is keeping it fun, and giving back. So a big part of what I do is when I buy like a binder collection buyout, for example, I buy something because one, it's usually a good price, but then also it has things in it that I want. And so I'm excited. I want to open that binder. I want to look through it. And because I'm more of a binder collector, I'm not really a graded collector. I don't really care as much about, is it mint? Is it going to have PSA 10? I don't really care. If it's a card that I really want, like the Test Tube Mewtwo I was talking to Rob about, it's a card. I'll buy it. I want to have it in my collection. And then I just try to figure out how can I then make the money from the rest of this to pay for that. And so when we talk about it from a tax perspective, this is one of the interesting things is, you buy 5,000 cards, collection buyout, there's no way to track that per card. You're looking at that as total sums in for the business and then sums out. And so an individual card that you take out that costs $50 that you want to add to your collection just gets lost in inventory. So from the perspective of tax, yes, the 4,999 cards went to technically inventory, but then the one card I wanted went to my collection. And so I always fund my collection first because I want to make it enjoyable and fun. And then everything else is an ends to the means of enjoying the collection, enjoying the hobby, having, giveaways to add to things that we do on some of the live streams. And then, of course, having things for the kids and trading and, having the decks we can build. And so for me, that's kind of how I approach it. So none of my PC, so the binders you see behind us here, those are not in inventory. Everything that I mentioned earlier in terms of numbers and financials, those are all separate. Those are my actual personal collection that I keep completely out of inventory, keep it out of taxes. It just disappeared in the transition of buyout to resale.
And that's just it. I mean, if I'm buying binder collections, exactly, the card just doesn't go into inventory. You just don't inventory that particular card. What I meant by buying stuff and paying myself out is when I'm buying like a graded card. So if it's an individual purchase where you got to sit there and, if you were to get questioned on where did this individual purchase go, those are the ones where it's just sometimes easier to just call it an owner's draw and just, use that to purchase a card. That way it never gets inventoried and there's not that traceability that's necessary. When you're bringing in a whole stack of cards, like you said, if you bring in 5,000 cards and 499 of them get put into collection, nobody has traceability to what was the original draw, what you picked up originally. And who knows if that's just those things. There's ways to do it in different ways, and for tax purposes, that's where we're always just watching, inventory versus personal collection. Like, ooh, that's a nice one, versus individual slabs.
So exactly what you're referring to here, Andy, is I graded some cards, and when I got the graded cards back as a part of the business, I said, "Oh man, I really like that card." I don't know if I'm gonna put that online. I might want to keep that one. So I have some of these cards that I just really enjoy, and so I haven't decided how I'm going to handle these yet. So there's part of that question that I don't know the answer to. They're technically still in inventory, but I just really enjoy these cards. Yeah. And so I don't know that I'm gonna sell them, but I'll have to figure out what I do from a financial standpoint. But I have them set aside. This is the only stack that I have that I made that decision on. But these are the ones that I'm going to hold and probably crack and put into my binder.
And the thing is that you're looking at that from a financial perspective. What I was told, and this is what my accountant has told me. Once again, this is why sometimes it's good to have an accountant for these type of things. Right now, realistically, the value of those cards is what you paid for the cards and grading. Potentially just the grading, because now you have an inventory traceability that you paid for grading for something. Yeah. You just do an owner's draw for the grading fee. That's what my accountant said. If you wanted to, just do the $15 for the grading fee on that, because do an owner's draw on that from your business, because you're the owner, you can do a draw on it to pay yourself, and then just do an owner's draw. Yep. Like she said, if you don't do $10,000 worth of owner's draws during a year, you're not really going to have much of a financial burden when it comes down to doing that kind of things like that. If you were to take the 8 cards you had there, $15 worth of that, it's always. There's always a little bit of cost with the $15 a piece, but it's marginal. You don't have to charge yourself like the actual cost of the card, because it is still an inventory item, and you're just buying it at whatever your fees are into that for the cost of the goods.
And you're bringing up 2 good points there. One of them is another really good perspective is what you do for marketing. So you can even look at what you do for a giveaway as just, hey, I was marketing the brand, the channel, and I gave away some cards to some people on the live stream. So that's another way to look at it, as you're spending money in marketing. So your inventory comes out, that money goes out for marketing against the brand, and that helps you, of course, build the business. And the other thing I didn't mention earlier is a large part of the benefit of doing this while still working a full-time job, and me and Terry Lake talked about that. Shout out to Terry. Is having a K1 against your actual taxable income from your day job. So this reduces my taxable income for whatever I spend and do here. That goes back as a K1 against my W-2. So from that perspective, anything that I can do will obviously come at a calculated assessment against my actual salary to lower that bracket and help me ensure that I'm paying the best legal limits possible.
Yeah, and that's just it. I mean, that's like people always ask, even the farm account. Why do we have so we have 2 farms, technically. My brother and dad own a farm. They're the main farm. They're the original farm that I grew up on, and it's just kind of transferred that way. But my wife and I created another farm. Well, people go, well, why do you have a farm inside of a farm? Well, because I want the tax deductions. I can't get them from my dad because he's the owner of that farm. I wanted my own, so my wife and I made our own farm so that we can start using that, like you said, that 1099K against my income. And so that way it maximizes or minimizes my tax liability at the end of the year. And it's the same thing with this. It's another, general or sole proprietor that's actually giving me another advantage on that actual income. And it's all how you look at it and how you leverage that and how you do that. But it's easy to use different businesses when you have a full-time income to leverage that against your actual income and reduce those tax burdens. Yeah. And it's all legal. I mean, everything is we're talking about here, and that's where I like Terry Lake. I mean, I understand he says you can do a lot of this stuff yourself, and I understand. I mean, I could probably do it myself, but the other factor is it's like I already have for our main business, I already have where my income comes from. I already pay an accountant. for me to go ask them simple questions and, just have them look over my stuff and say, yeah, you can do that. Nah, that's kind of a gray area. That might get you, someone looking at your stuff. That's where it comes down to why it's sometimes good to, even if you don't use them for full tax purposes, even to have one that a friend or an accountant that you pay, give them $25 sometimes just to have a discussion with them. It's well worth it at the end. At the end of the day, it's always better to have someone to just double check what you're doing than get potentially caught with your hand in a cookie jar because you made a mistake or you filed something you shouldn't, or you put it in the wrong spot. It could be as simple as you did something right, but you put it in the wrong spot. And that's a big factor why I always suggest an accountant just to double check. Sometimes you can do consulting fees and they're a lot cheaper. You don't have to have them do all your taxes, but just to do a consulting fee with an accountant and just give you a direction sometimes is a great thing to do.
Fully agree. The more educated you are, the better. Yeah,
exactly. How do you create a farm? Well, you just start digging in the dirt and you go to the state and you tell them that I got an agricultural license, and like you said, you go pick up a couple eggs, you have chickens, and you just feed them and you lose money. That's pretty much what happens. The most expensive eggs you'll eat are far. Yeah.
You lose money on purpose.
But yeah, you got a ton of assets. I mean, you're always at it, and that's what we always laugh about farmers. We're asset rich and money poor. It's just amazing. We got tons of land, we got tons of equipment, we got tons of animals, but we have no money whatsoever at the end of the year.
Well, that's because you've reduced your primary working income.
Exactly. It went to feed them animals.
Achieved. Exactly. The goal is achieved. So. Hey, Mason jumped in the chat. He says, tax talk without Dan here.
It's allowed, Mason. We'll allow it. We're done with the tax talk. That was just simple.
Dan's in all of us, Mason. He's spoken about tax so much. He's here in all of us. So
we're all part of Dan's tax talk. Other than that, I think we're all done. We're caught up on the questions again. Like I said, all these are really ending up pertinent to where we're at, which is great. I mean, this is exactly what I was hoping for with doing this live. So once again, thanks everybody in the chat bringing up these real pertinent questions, which is what I was hoping, that people would really start seeing the discussion and have something that we could elaborate on and go a little bit further into. So now that we're past that one, which was a tough question, the next one is number one most important thing that you have learned in your Pokemon business that you need. Examples of that are, of course, family, community. What has really been an important factor for you being successful?
I'll have a two-part answer to that. The success is definitely 100% the support of my wife, giving me the ability and the time and the support to do this. As you know, rightfully well, and you said it earlier, they typically go unrecognized and unannounced, but the wife's behind all of us. They really, really make it possible. Now, I'm not saying this because she's going to watch, because she doesn't even know I'm streaming on this one, so she's not even going to see this, but she really, really supports me, and anything I'm looking to do in this business, the time I need, especially around adding on top of the business, the content creation. As you know, it's a lot, and she's always there. She's always supportive. She's excited for me. When things don't go well, she, cheers me on. So without that, I would not be able to be successful whatsoever. And I've ran businesses by myself in the past, and when I was single, and it was not as enjoyable of an experience, especially during the tough times and you're by yourself and you don't know what to do, and there was nobody there to kind of help you out. She's always got my back. So my wife is definitely the top one when it comes to success. But as a second part to the question, I would also add, and I think I said this in Basics 24-hour live stream recently, the New Year's kickoff he had. I really did not, as a preface to this, I'd hated social media before coming into the space. I had no accounts. I did not participate in it on purpose. I'm again from a tech background, so I know what's behind it. I kind of know how all this stuff works. I built a lot of software platforms. I even built some social media platforms. So from that perspective, I really didn't like what was happening in the tech space with our engagement in social media and how it really drives a lot of things and negativity and so on and so forth. So I just didn't want to be a part of it. And so I didn't have the exposure over the past 10 years of what it was like to be this deep into social media. Now, of course, I'm on all of them because of Pokemon. But I've tried to navigate that in the most positive and balanced way that I can. Now, with that in mind, what I didn't realize because I didn't have that experience in social media was what it was like to have a real community of people that you connect with, that you know by first name, you know about their kids, you know about their lives, and connecting with them, and they join you, they support you, and how they support each other. I just didn't grasp the magnitude of what that would feel like. I had an idea. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, you got people that show up at your chat. It didn't sound like that big of a deal. But when I created one in my own right underneath the brand, and then I started talking to these people, and we see each other every week, and we talk every week about the details, it was something completely different. And that is actually not the reason I created the channel and did the social media side of it, but it's the one there's the reason I keep going. I would have stopped probably a long time ago because it's hard. It's as you said before in our pre-call, the editing and all the efforts behind it. And, now we're a little bit lazy with the live streams because it's fun. It's easy. We get to interact and bring the chat in, but it's a grind. And if I was just doing that in isolation and just seeing comments and just trying to reply to those kind of retroactively, it wouldn't be nearly what it is today. And so I stay for the community, and I stay to help grow that community and try to give back, as I mentioned earlier. And that's probably one of the second reasons for the success is just so many great people in this hobby, much like yourself, all the rock stars here in the chat. I mean, these people are awesome. They're everywhere. Every time I go to some live, I usually see 2 to 3 people in every one of the lives. It's always somebody. Hey, Navi Station's here. Hey, Jimbo Slice is here. R&D Pokemoners is here. They're always somewhere. And to see them supporting so many people, helping each other out, really, I understand now. And I actually had a comment with Felipe, and he and I will talk about that more on Thursday. This is why I think the Pokemon community is so different than like when I was in sports and collecting and cards and other spaces, comic books. It's the people here make the difference. And that for me really keeps me motivated. It really helps me keep that fire going. And that adds to the success. So both my wife and, of course, my family, but then, of course, the people in the community that we're service. So as long as we can be of service and be of value, then it's always going to be a good outcome.
And that's all that we always try and do. And I think you're absolutely right. Knowing some people in the sports community and being in with them, in that community, I'm not saying bad things about them. I mean, it is a different personality to be in that.
It's just different. Yeah,
it is. It's a different personality. Here, it's more of the community being very much, warm and welcoming, especially to newcomers and to people in the community. We enjoy new people. We enjoy having discussions. If you have questions and you want to have directions on things, I don't think that there's very many people in this community that would be like, no, I'm not telling you anything. Most of us are very open. You hit us up on Instagram or you meet us in person. Yep. We'll be the first ones that'll be whipping out our binders or our battle decks or whatever you want to do. We usually have both of them in our backpacks ready to rock and roll. And that's just the persona that we've always, a lot of this community has had, which makes it so much more warm and likable. And I think that it's welcoming to people. And I think that's why overall so many people actually have stayed even after the boom. I was always concerned at how many people would stay, because no matter what, we have people that are in it just for money, and they're going to last just like sports cards. They're going to last so long and then they're gone. When the money's gone, the free tendies are gone. They're out of here. There's no reason for them to stay. But I do have a feeling that a lot more people stayed in this community because, like, even on the chats, like you said, you see the same people that have been here for years and years and years, and they just continually have good input, good discussions, good overall, mindset, and they're very good comments and welcoming and helpful and insightful all at the same time. And it's fantastic to see, that community, that bond. You can meet us in person, and we're pretty much the same people we are on here. Everybody I've met in person, the few that I have in places have been absolutely the same as they are in here. Very welcoming, very much exactly what you see.
Fully agree, and I'll support that just with one example. I reached out and I was talking to iFOMO on Instagram, and I was just asking him a few questions and kind of actually get some constructive feedback. And really great guy, gave me some good points that I didn't consider. Gave me some good ways to kind of think about it from a different view, some other people to connect to. And it's exactly those conversations. He shows up in the chats. I'm like, hey, guy, good to see you, FOMO. And now I know him by first name. We talk, and of course, we can exchange information. And just people like that just make the hobby that much more special, in my opinion. So shout out to everybody here, but also you, FOMO. Hope you're still here, buddy.
He just commented, so he's still chilling here with us, which is awesome. Like I said, I think that's probably why he's another one. He's like Drew, number one mod on a lot of channels, just because he's always there and he's always insightful. He's always pushing people forward. He really is fantastic to have his moderator and in the chats just being who he is, and it's awesome.
I mean, even when I look at like video game streams, you look at I forget the guy's name because I don't really do too many of those, but the really popular guy that has the glasses and the long kind of mullet hair.
Oh no! What is this, Doctor? What is it?
Yeah,
yeah, I know what you're talking about, Doctor something. Wow, darn it! What's his name?
I jumped in just to see, like, okay, what's this all about? Like, why is he so popular? What's going on? Yeah. And I watched it, and I probably won't go back. No offense to him, but it's just not my style. But I watched the chat and I watched what was happening, and it's nothing like this. It's nothing like the community we have here. It was just people there to kind of, look at the games, give some comments, talk some junk, which is fine. We have that here too, but the connection wasn't there. It was missing completely. And I think that's the key difference. And that's what we're supporting here.
Yeah. Dr. Disrespect.
Yeah,
that's what it was. I know Dr. something.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, that's the one.
So, and like I said, like you've said, and like I've said, it is really, really awesome to see the community and what has become. I mean, in 2019, it was very much a closet hobby. And I always said that you always never wanted people to know you did it. You enjoyed it. You loved it. You wanted to do it in your basement where nobody saw you doing it. When you went some places, you hid your stuff so you could get in there so people you knew didn't see you. And yeah, exactly. I would take my battle deck and sneak into the LGS through the back. I'm going to park in the back alley so nobody sees my vehicle. And now it is no longer a closet hobby. You're actually cool to do this now, and you could walk around anywhere and then have that stuff. And it's just awesome to see the changes that have occurred from this. And I'm glad that this hobby can now be open and be out where everybody can enjoy it, where we can actually talk about our hobby and our passion and not have to feel like a nerd or that you're going to be outcast because of it by your group of friends. I mean, for the first time ever, I actually talked about it at the bar the other weekend. Someone was asking me questions, or they were talking about Pokemon at the bar, and I ended up getting tied into the conversation. It was just hilarious. It's like, wow, we're actually talking about this, right? Yeah, Pokemon. Whoa, what? We're talking about Pokemon at the bar? Yeah, I can give you reference.
Another round. So. Yeah, and another good story. I ran into a different Jeff, not just your average Jeff, but a different one. I was at the local LGS, and I was on Pokemon Friday, so we go there. We typically either get some packs or whatever, like a couple of singles, whatever we decide to do that week. And I run into this guy. He was opening 2 ETBs, him and his girlfriend. And he's like super excited. I can tell like he's just really getting into it. It's 151. And I watched him for a minute. I kind of watched a couple of packs he opened, watched a couple of hits. I said, oh, that's great, man. And kind of like congratulated him there at the counter because he was doing it on top of the glass counter. And I said, hey, man, are you trying to, complete a set, or are you just opening for fun? He said, no, I'm trying to do a master set. He said, okay. So we talked for a few minutes, and, we clarified what a master set is, because he was going just for the hits. Like, no, that's not a master set, buddy. Like,
nope, that's
you want
the hits.
Master set? Because he's like, hey, do you want these, this bulk cards? I said, well, I would be happy to take them, but I don't want to take them. You probably need them. are you playing the deck? Or like, that's when I started asking questions.
Yeah.
And I said, you probably need them, right? He says, well, no, this is just, bulk. I don't need this. I said, well, if you're doing a master set, you better look back through that because you're going to need reverse hollows and everything. He goes, oh, really? I said, yeah. And so I said, why don't you do this? Go home, check it out, and let me know what you're missing. And if you want, we can do an exchange. I have plenty of 151 at home. Let me know what you're missing, and we can just swap out whatever you don't need. You can send me, and whatever you do need, I can send you. And so we did an exchange and, sent him like 40, 50 cards and just to help him out with his deck. And, he showed up in a live the other day and it was super cool to say, hey, I was the guy that met you at the LGS. So, that story is to say, help somebody out. If you see somebody, I was helping kids out in Target with their moms. They were looking at it. They were just puzzled. Like, what do I buy? I'm like, well, what are you looking for? And kind of help somebody out, make them smile. You got some extra cards, hand them out to the kids. And that's what it's all about. And that just makes the hobby just go round and round and pass the positivity to the next person.
That just reminds me this weekend we're trying, like I was talking to you online earlier this week, I was testing out 2 decks, kind of playing around with a couple guys, testing out an Iron Hands deck and a Charizard EX deck to see how competitive they were and how they worked out. But I was there and we were sitting there and there was a kid came in and probably, I want to say he was younger than Jacob. He was probably around 7 years old. You built an Iron Hands deck. Huh? He's going for it. He's going to try it out. It's a good deck if you can get it built. That's all I'm going to say is that it is very competitive. You just got to have the time to build that Iron Hands up to be there. But the kid came in, a mom and her kid came in, and the kid was like, talking, and he really wanted Pokemon cards. He wanted to try it out. He was fairly new. Once again, the mom was completely lost because her kids just, they're trying to find Pokemon cards, and of course the Walmart in that town doesn't have anything. And they ended up coming in, and he said, the kid was a real Pikachu fan. He was a super Pikachu fan. And his mom's just like, well, I don't know what has Pikachu. I don't know, But the problem is the LGS, no offense to them, they're very big on Magic, like Flesh and Blood, Dungeons and Dragons. They have the setup there for that. They're not a big Pokemon place. They have tournaments there just because it's so popular, and they have people in demand for it, but they're really not a huge Pokemon retailer. So even the guy that was behind the counter was just like, I'm not sure what has what. I just know this is really popular, and this is really popular. And I was just like, I was listening and the same thing, and I came over, just like, to introduce myself, and I said, what are you looking for specifically? Does your son like something specific? And he's like, he just loves Pikachu. He absolutely loves Pikachu. It's his favorite Pokemon. And I said, there's a couple sets you could do that have, Pikachu in it. And the store had Vivid Voltage. And I said, so there's Vivid Voltage. It has, like the VMAX Pikachu, has some really nice ones in it. Also has some Vs and things like that. And they actually had a Shining Fates box in the back, which I thought was interesting. It was down on the bottom. It had the Pikachu V, the V Pikachu box. And I said, if he's not worried about hits and wants to have fun, he said, just you can buy the box down there. And they were like $19.99. They were down in price anyways. Yeah. And they're just like, helped her, and she bought the box. So her son was super excited because he got that Pikachu V promo right off the bat. So of course he's a lady. He got a Pikachu card right off the bat. And then the best part is then he goes ahead and opens it up, and then he actually hits one of the nice shinies. He hits the he didn't hit the Charizard. That would have been a really cool story. But come on, hit the Charizard. No, he didn't get the Charizard, which that, like I said, that would have been a really cool little ender to the story. I wish I could have said that cool. But he did end up getting the Lapras VMAX, shiny VMAX out of it. So it's a good hit. He was really excited.
Yeah.
And then, I was explaining to his mom, this is one of the better hits out of Shining Fates and going through. And he was really excited, but he got his Pikachu, so he was really excited with that. He got that Pikachu V, the card. Well, once again, it's one of those things. You're just helping the community. You're helping them out, And once again, you help people out and they get used to it. Like I told you on your station when we were talking on your channel during the live. If you could help people and help people enjoy it, they're more likely to stay. And if you can get them to stay, you end up having a better community in the long run, because now that kid's going to have a memory of that potentially of, I got that Pikachu V and I hit that Lapras V shiny. And, of course I gave him a sleeve because I always have sleeves in my pocket, or my wife has them in her purse, and she's just, but I mean, it's just those things that you can do that just help out. And it's one of those things that gravitates and keeps someone in the hobby. And if you can keep someone in a hobby, it just builds a stronger community overall.
And I think that's one of the many reasons that this is so great. We do that generation after generation, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that really is going to hopefully pass down over time. Hopefully. Navi Station says, "What do you consider a master set?" For me, it's all of it. It's
all
everything.
of it.
Yeah. Yep.
For me, a master
hollows,
set,
reverse hollows. Yep.
Commons, uncommons. It's all. I mean, I've got all of them. Like my Shining Fate set is, it's all of them. I mean, it's literally non-hollow, reverse hollow, hollow, all of
exactly.
it. It's a full set.
That's the way I do it. That's the way I do it, at least.
That's the only master set that I have.
But that's my master set.
Yeah. That's the only complete master set I have is Shining Fates.
Did you complete it?
I did. Yep, I actually completed it. I didn't pull them all. I ended up buying the baby shinies because, dear Lord.
Get ready. The new one's even worse.
I know. There's like more.
90 different baby shinies in that one.
The good news is most of the baby shinies were like $1.50, so it wasn't too expensive overall to do, which is good. But
pulled them out of inventory.
Yeah, exactly. Pull them out of inventory. They never made it here. They got lost in the mail.
Basic says, help a kid in the hobby, and now that kid will pay your bills forever.
Dang it, he's on to us.
Dang it, I thought I worded that nicely, but
I know. You're basic, putting the truth now.
I love it. Good stuff. So. But it has some truth to it. I mean, it does come full circle. It does.
It does. I mean, in a way, like I said, once again, the more people you can keep in the hobby, the more opportunities that everybody has. It's not just me that benefits from that. It's the overall TCG. It's the community. It's everybody that's selling stuff all has the availability for that. So it is. I mean, you are looking at it that way too. Because if I didn't care if I could make money in Pokemon in another 10 years, then why do any of it? Just open my cards, enjoy it, and don't try. I mean,
be done with it.
Yeah. Be done with it. So yeah, he's not wrong.
You're talking about magic. When you sound like that, it sounds like magic.
No, that magic's trying to self-kill itself. They're just trying to just slowly bury themselves.
Amazon dumps and massive reprints. Perfect. Go for it.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome.
Man, you see anything here in the chat? I didn't see. I'm looking through it.
No, I haven't seen anything really. I haven't seen any real questions recently, so I think we're all caught up on the questions part of it and going through the chat. So, we're actually on the way down to the last question, which is, like I said, it goes fairly quick actually when it comes down to my questionnaire. The last thing that I have is knowing what you do now in the Pokemon TCG and doing what you've done for your Pokemon business. Would you still choose to do this if you had a redo? If you could start over from day one in Pokemon and seeing the things you've seen, would you continue to do exactly what you're doing now? Or would you change the direction?
I would change only one thing, and that would be to start sooner. I mean, this has been... I haven't had this kind of fun and passion in what I've done outside of work, because I was very career focused for the longest time, and of course family and doing the things here with the kids and vacations and good memories that we build. But as far as like a personal hobby, my last probably fun, really big personal hobby was like playing guitar. That's when I was a teenager. And then from that point forward, after the military, it was all just career and trying to reach some imaginary point in the future. And once I reached it, I was like, "Oh, that was it? Okay, well, now what?" Because I've lost so many things along the path, and I've gained so many things too. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But getting back into a hobby like this was something I really missed in my life. And I really wish I could have done something more like this in earlier years. But for me, one of the other things, and I didn't mention it before, in terms of like the top goals of me running this business and having Pokemon as part of an actual business and not just ripping packs for fun, is I get to connect with my kids. I'm playing, and I started because of them. but we play together. We sing songs while we're getting ready in the morning. We're singing Pokemon songs. We're watching movies every weekend on Pokemon. He's gotten all the books, and he's helping me. Hey, Dad, this is the one that evolves from that one, and this is the attack that it has. And, oh, okay, great, thanks. And so, like, we're all just going through this journey, and I'm connecting with them in a way that I didn't have before. And yeah, we had fun. We rode bikes. We did the traditional things, but the bond and the relationship that I've gained with my kids through this process, the 2 to 3 years they were asking before we actually did it, I would have started a lot sooner. It's been so much fun. I've enjoyed the hobby. I've connected with the family. Me and my wife even do more time to sit down together because we sit down and we play a game and we talk while we're playing. And it just brings so much value and I think fun. My wife just said to me last week, she had a tough week. She goes, it was Thursday night. And she goes, honey, I'm really looking forward to Pokemon Fridays tomorrow. So I hope you got some good packs. All right. Note taken.
Yeah.
But it's been that journey that I really wish I would have started sooner because it's been so much fun. And again, just so thankful to have done this. And even if it all ends tomorrow for my life or whatever reason it may be, I'm just glad to have done it. And I would just do it over again, 100%. Yes. And then just do it a lot sooner. Yeah, for sure.
I think that's a pretty common statement for a lot of us, especially the ones that were really always interested in Pokemon beforehand. Even myself, I said it on your stream. I always wish that I would have maybe pushed it a little bit further than what I did to start out with, just to try and to be a little bit further along in this journey. But overall, I wouldn't change a thing that I've done. And that's a really common statement. I enjoy it. I mean, people sit there and think bulk's a grind. And if you don't enjoy bulk, yeah, it's going to be a grind. Me, sometimes I like to just sit there and enjoy looking at some of the artwork that comes through. I mean, there's still things that I get on collections that are from XY in black and white. They're cards that I have not really taken the time to look at just because it's been so crazy in the hobby in the last 3 years. And it's just really cool to see what has changed in the Pokemon TCG, just looking at some of these bulk cards by enjoying and looking through them, having them in your hands and seeing what's inside of them. So overall, the hobby, I think we all choose our paths, and if you haven't chosen a path yet and decided which way you want to go, these are great ways to find out. But for most of us at this point, if you've been doing this for more than probably a year, you're probably already pretty well set on your path, and you've probably settled into what you like at that point in time. I mean, some people do change. Some people do get bored and are looking for an idea for something new or a new direction, and this would also work for them. But this is for a lot of new people out there, a lot of individuals who are really looking for that pathway of looking at it without dabbling into everything. Because, I mean, you could spend a lot of money dabbling, I think we've all done it at the beginning. The first, really, I always say the first 4 to 6 months, you really just try everything. You're buying graded cards, you're buying packs, you're ripping packs. I'm going for that hit card because I'm going to make bank hitting that Lugia right off the bat. You always got these things in your head, and it's like after about 6 months, you're like, okay, that was stupid. I just spent way too much money on a lot. What did I do? Why did I do this?
That was 15 grand down the drain.
That was. I got 100,000 V cards and nothing to show for it.
And this is where the idea comes. What do I do with all this bulk?
Yeah, and that's when you end up doing this business. Oh, we got a bulk business now. Here we are.
Yeah.
Totes of bulk. Let's make something with this. I had to recoup. I'm never gonna financially recover from this.
It'll take me 10 years. Spend bulk. That's all right. We'll do it. We'll do this. It was fun.
Oh. So.
But I fully agree with you, and I will say it again. It's connecting with those you love, and that may be your family, that may be your friends, that may be the friends you make that you don't know that you're going to make. But this hobby has connected us to so many people that we love, and that's the best part. That's the best part about the hobby.
Yeah,
and like you said, a nice side effect. Yeah,
and you said it earlier. It was really a cool connection, and you're right. You're sitting there looking at it going, I'm watching my son pretty much follow exactly what I did. It's really cool to see it almost come that full circle again. You're seeing that full circle again where my son sees me opening packs. He sees me building battle decks. Now he's building decks. and he's starting to want to save money and be able to buy packs and be able to go to tournaments every Saturday to be able to do that stuff. And these are all the important things that in the hobby that are fun, but it's that connection I have with my kids again. That I'm doing something I really loved as a kid. It's cool now for me to do it at my age, and I get to see him follow that same direction again and doing the exact same things that I loved as a kid and getting the same enjoyment and the thrill of all the stuff that we had as that, when you're that age and when you're a little bit more, a little bit more free. You're not concerned about all the life's problems and all the issues that go on with it.
Yep. No bills, no groceries, no worries. Just have some fun. Good grades in Pokemon. Good grades in Pokemon.
Yep. Get good grades and continue to get Pokemon cards. Exactly. So
one of the things I'll add to that is I've really enjoyed going back and watching all the series and all the movies and seeing the characters, because I didn't get a chance to experience that as a kid. But of course, there was also, as a lot of you had started Pokemon as a child, of course, a lot of movies and series had came out while you were, too cool to watch Pokemon. So going back and watching all those and then going back to the cards, it's such a great correlation. I watched this recent one with Caldeo and Kyurem. So Caldeo thinks he's the best, and he goes out there and he wants to be one of the Swords of Justice, and he wants to do that. He has to fight Kyurem. And I've seen the Kyurem cards. I've seen the Caldeo cards. They're all there. A lot of the Kyurem cards for me were from XY and olders. But then I had a lot of for example, I think it was Crown Zenith that had the really nice Caldeo cards. The Galarian Gallery.
Yes, it
and
did.
So I saw those cards, but I didn't connect it to the movie until after that. And then I went back and looked at those cards and wow, this is really cool. So connecting all those pieces together and then having a newfound appreciation for it after watching the movies, it changes my perspective on every one of the characters that I see in the movie now. The one with Volcanion and Magearna, it was a really cool movie. And then after that, I'm like, you know what? I really like Volcanion. I'm gonna collect some Volcanion cards. Before that, I was like, I don't like that one too much.
Yeah.
But now I've seen the movie, it really gives a great perspective and it shows you a little bit behind the scenes. So if you haven't done that as well, and of course, if you have some kids or if not, do it by yourself, but enjoy the movies, and it really makes a different connection with the cards and the hobby. Yeah.
It does. And that's the biggest thing is that for me personally, I was 12. So when Pokemon came out, when Pokemon, the first movie came out, I was almost 13 years old. I went and watched it in the theaters. It was an awesome movie. I enjoyed that movie, and I still have enjoyed the anime all the way through. There was a time, once again, I didn't have time, and I was kind of backing out of it in general, and I wasn't watching it as much. But now with my son, we've caught up, and now we haven't gone in, like I said on your live or in others things, I haven't seen the newest generation of Pokemon. We've seen all the way through where Ash, and that's where I'm still having a hard time. For me personally, that was my connection. I think that's a big issue that a lot of people my age have is that now with the anime section of it, I heard a lot of people say they just can't get into this Gen 9, part of the Pokemon anime because you lost our connection all the way back to when we were a child.
Right.
They now severed that because now Ash is gone. Ash and Ash's Pikachu are now gone. And there isn't that. Yeah. But now I heard someone was saying is that he's going to be coming up in the anime again. So I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if that's just hopes.
I hope so.
I hope so. I miss, that's why I said I don't know how the anime is going to feel without that particular part of it. And like you said, the connection, the card connections. Like Ash's Pikachu, like they did that card back, and that card is just a beautiful card in general. Red's Pikachu. Red is technically a different character. People don't realize that a lot of times is that Red is not Ash. They're actually two different people. FYI,
they're actually in a tag team card together.
Yeah, they are.
Right?
I believe so. Yeah, but it's just funny because a lot of people always think that Ash and Red are the exact. No, they're not. Spoiler alert: they're not the same person. But there's that connection totally. That once again, watching all the video, movies, going back, watching all the movies, watching the series, getting caught up on all the series. Even me, I missed Black and White, I missed the XY series, and I missed the, end of Diamond and Pearl. I saw some of Diamond and Pearl back when I was younger. And it's really cool just to see the evolution and then what they're putting into these alt arts. Like that's why I always laugh about the Machamp card. Some people are just like, it doesn't, it kind of looks whatever. It's an okay card. I'm like, that's really cool that they actually took that out of the anime, because there is actually Machamps doing exactly what that card shows in the actual anime. That's what Machamps did, is they were workhorses in the villages. And so they literally took the anime and brought it into the alternate arts and these illustrator rares and these secret illustrator rares. They brought the anime almost into the cards and brought life to the cards, which is why I think I enjoy these newer artworks so much.
Fully agree. And that touches back on our conversation, basic on the maturity in the journey of collecting, when we're talking about artists and illustrators, and on his live stream.
Yeah,
we kind of give him a little poke. He's like, I don't know, man. I don't pay attention to the artist. I said, well, the more you go down the path, you start call it maturity at the time, you'll start looking at it. He goes, what are you calling me immature? Like, I'm just saying.
I'm not making fun of you, but yes. So
all the love, Basic. All the love, my friend.
Basic just said Ash is coming back in that season,
nice.
Searching for his long lost father.
Perfect. Can't wait.
I really do hope that that's true, because it'd be nice to have Ash back into the anime. I think the anime kind of took a hit. I don't think that they're admitting it, but there are a lot of people I know that just aren't into it.
You cannot have Pokemon without Ash and Pikachu. That's just not a thing. You take out the main. I don't know if you watch Big Bang Theory, but you can't have Big Bang Theory without Sheldon.
No,
there's no Big Bang Theory without Sheldon. That's just how it works.
You can't cut Sheldon out in the 25th season and say no. We no longer acknowledge Sheldon's in Big Bang Theory anymore.
Sorry.
No, you can't get rid of them. So, but.
I saw somebody ask what's in my mule cup. This was handmade Baku and aloe vera water. So I'll let you search that on your own. But Baku.
Other than that, I'm done with the questionnaires. Like I said, that's typically where I go to with the questionnaire part of it. I know that we were kind of talking earlier where you were talking more about the business side of things and possibly breaking down a little bit more into that. I don't know if you had something you wanted to elaborate a little bit more that you were holding back on that you thought we were going to get into a little bit later. But because we were talking about your overall bulk business and how everything was kind of, breaking that down a little bit further. We did talk about the pricing and, like our bottom lines, our floor pricing and stuff like that. But, when it comes down to business, even for the sorting side of things, I think that's a big question for bulk people, and I think we all kind of do it what's probably common for us. But the one thing that I was going to ask you is, for your bulk side of things, how much do you break them down? Do you just break them down to the sets? Do you go down into the sets and break them down by number, alphabetically, hit cards, trainers on their own? I mean, there's a lot of ways you could do that. And I'm kind of curious to hear from your perspective how you do it.
It was funny because my wife her collection was growing. Each Pokemon Friday we have, her sets and stuff get bigger and bigger. And she started putting things in a binder because she wanted to separate Sword and Shield. And she's doing like the non 3-ring binders. She's doing like the typical like Vault X type of binders. Yep. And she says, well, I'm doing this one for this one. And I said, baby, you're going to run out of room very soon. And you're not going to be able to arrange the cards the way you want to. So you might want to change it, because I'm telling you, I've already been down that path. And you're going to face it. And last week she goes, baby, we have a problem. I said, what's that? I didn't know if she was talking about something serious or not. He goes, I don't have any more space in my binders. I said, I told you not to do it like that. But she used to sort them by energy type and all that stuff. I said, baby, it's not going to work out. I said, keep the things you're building in deck separate. Put your hits in the binder. Just collect it how you like. Don't worry about if it's Sword and Shield or if it's Scarlet, because she didn't like the way the silver borders are mixing with the yellow borders. So baby, just mix it all together. Trust me. If you try to separate it all, you're going to go crazy. My business inventory went through the same evolution, which is why I kind of gave you that backstory. So as I got into it, my final state is definitely by set. I'm using the PCW, was it 9 or 12? 12 row boxes, and I use the dry eraser label on the front, and I group them by series. So I have X and Y boxes, or X and Y, 12 group sets. I have Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield, base set, everything else. They're all sorted alphabetically, and in my case, every card from start to finish. Now, if they're reverse, I sleeve every reverse holo, just because, especially the older ones, I learned my lesson and scratching them and kind of letting them rub against the other cards. So I try to preserve that as much as possible, and the cost is minimal to nothing. So I sleeve every holo and every reverse holo, and I put them in the order. Now, the other thing with Binder POS is, as sorting, especially when you're pulling orders, sorting by condition. I don't separate them. A lot of people separate them, and they have all my light blades over here, my near mints here. No, I put them all together, and I actually organize them near mint in the front to heavily played in the back or damaged. So I know if I got near mint, it's in the very front. And when I'm looking at the inventory, because I do it through Shopify, I know exactly how many near mints I have, how many light plates I have. So I'm not worried. Is this one light mint, or is this the one I listed? It's always in order, exactly, again, near mint to damaged. And I actually sort them that way. So as I'm putting them away, if I got a new set or a new pack, I'll actually put those in those specific spots where it's maybe this one's moderately played. So I'll put it with those, and always put the best one in the front and the worst one in the back, even if they're moderately played. So I kind of have that individual sort within the sort, if you will. That just gives me a peace of mind, so I know exactly what I'm grabbing, and I get the right card at the right time. I've only had 2 cases where I've grabbed one wrong card, and the second one I actually caught as I was going through my QA process, and I reached out and said, hey, this thing was actually supposed to be near mint. I'm looking at it. It's not. It's lightly played. Do you still want it? I can give you a refund of the difference. If you don't, I can cancel your order. Let me know what you want to do. And it was like 40 cents difference. He said, no, that's okay. Just, don't even worry about it. But I gave him the money back anyway. I said, thank you. Appreciate it. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Yeah.
So that's how I sort all my bulk. I do the graded cards in a similar way. Again, a BCW, 2-row box, but then I sort them by, in this case, it's going to be by number. So everything is by actual cert number, and I have, again, the labels on the front. And so in this case, when I get an order, I'm looking directly at the cert number, go right to the box. It's sorted, numerically. Grab the cert number, done. I don't care color, it doesn't matter. Cert number, 1 through whatever, right? So that keeps things simple and clean. And then I don't have quite enough. I mean, most of my sealed, booster boxes are in the actual booster box case, so that's straightforward. I don't have to worry about that too much. So those are pretty clean, pretty simple.
Yeah. And like I said, I was just curious because there's a lot of different ways that people do bulk. I know some people just do it by sets and throw them all together. Some people do it by number.
Yeah.
Personally, number don't work so well. When it comes down to getting into Binder POS, I found that alphabetical is definitely the better process for that, to getting it in. Yeah, I don't know, for some reason on this, whenever I do it, it seems like for me alphabetical just works better. It might just be a mental thing more than it's an actual Binder POS problem. It's just my own brain issue. To me, everything just needs to be alphabetized. Do you keep any back? That's a question I have. So when I put mine in there and I list on like Binder POS, let's just say, I don't typically put all of my cards. Like if I got like Pokestops, perfect example. It just, again, because it just recently happened to me, I don't necessarily list all my Pokestops. So like the last one had, like 35 Pokestops. I listed 20 of them, and those 20 were gone overnight. So that told me I could, raise that price a little bit. Do you do that, or do you just list everything right away? Just send it, and it is what it is.
On non-graded cards, I will list them all right away and let them run at whatever the market price is. I don't, because the more times I touch the card, if I'm not fulfilling the order, it's the waste of time it is. I'm looking for the efficiency there. So if I have 20 in my hand and I've counted 20, I've already done the task. I'm not going to pull. I don't want to touch it again unless I'm fulfilling an order. Now, graded cards I'll treat a little bit differently, especially if I'm doing, like I had some Umbreons from GameStop where I listed a couple where I got some 10s back, and I'll hold 2 or 3 and kind of see where the market goes, and then I'll list the other ones, maybe run not a buy now, but an auction, and kind of see where that one goes and kind of play with that a little bit. Whereas with the graded, because the prices are automatic, if somebody buys 20, hey, great. You got them for $1 and you sold them a week later for $1.50. Fine. I got other things to do. So that's perfectly fine with me. So no, I don't hold any. And the only thing I do hold back is cards that we will actually use in our decks. So I do prioritize us making our decks first. And so I have something for the kids or my wife. And, if we get in an Ultra Ball or something that we needed, I'll kind of put those aside. I pulled out some of the ones that you and I were talking about. I won't show them all here, but okay. I pulled out some of those, and just kind of set them aside. It's okay. I'm building another deck, and I'll kind of put some things to the side, but not that many. From a business perspective, it's all just put it in and let it go.
Yeah. I was just curious because like I said, if I know something's going to be playable or there's going to be a good usability to it, where it may not have hit quite right or quite yet, sometimes I'll hold some back knowing that fact. And I was just curious if that was and like you said, you could hope Binder POS keeps up with the market and making those adjustments, but
and there's two other things to that. So I that's a partial truth. One thing I do like to do is if I see a card that I think is really popular, in my opinion, in the future, I'll put several of those in my personal binder. So they don't even go in inventory. I don't even think of them. I'm just setting them away for the future. So I kind of treat that like kind of sealed modern product that I'm holding for a long time. One example of that is I think that I know I was just joking with who was it? Somebody. It wasn't Rob. I think it was somebody else. I was joking about the Pokemon Go set and the Mewtwo. I said I really like the Mewtwo in that set, and I think the Mewtwo in that set combined with the 151 promo are just a great combination to have together. And I think they're cards that are going to be great in the future. So I have like 5 or 6 of those in my binder that I'm just holding on to. And I don't really have any intention to put on the website anytime soon. I just think it's going to be a really great card, and I'll keep one and eventually maybe trade another one for something else, or maybe eventually sell it. But I do have some put away. So I didn't tell the full truth there. That is my small stash, but it's very select, maybe 30 or 40 cards at most that I've done that with. Other than that, the rest of them, they just go into inventory. Yeah.
Just your average Jeff. Was that a rare candy?
I missed it. Did I make a rare candy analogy?
No. In your deck that you were showing, because you were showing the cards that we were talking about. So
No.
That wasn't what he was actually trying to show us. What he was trying to show us is just for competitive play, there's a thing going on with a Charizard EX deck and an Iron Hands deck. Iron Hands, if you can get it built up, actually has an ability to be a stronger deck. The issue is that you have to have time to build that Iron Hands. So on his live, we were talking about, I was looking at a way to try and build that Iron Hands deck faster and get the energies on it quicker, because that's the biggest problem is that you need, 5 energies on the Iron Hands deck in order to use it.
Yeah, to get the 2 for 1, you need 5, and you can do the 4 to do just, I think it's 160.
But it has to have a lot of, exactly. So you got to have a lot of energies on that particular card, which takes turns because you can only put 1 energy up from your deck at a time. So you have to figure out a way to get energies on it faster because accelerate that energy draw. Because a Charizard EX deck, if you play against it, he's got Electro. That's another way you can do it. A Charizard EX deck only needs 2 energies, and actually, when you evolve it from a Charmander to a Charizard EX, you get Raining Fire, which means you get to pull 3 energies and put them on any Pokemon you want. So you can build up a Charizard in like 3 turns. If you get a couple Ultra Balls, I mean, it is a wicked fast deck, and that's the one I've actually been using now, and I can tell you right now, you can whip a Charizard up there in 3 turns, and if you're good, you can do it in 2. I've seen people do it in 2. If you can get that rare candy and have it all lined up, yeah, it's crazy how fast you can build that thing. So, yeah, it's a very interesting. It's an interesting fight that's going on right now. That Iron Hands actually has a heavier hit,
Right.
but you got to have the build time on it. So you got to either have a sacrificial Pokemon, and then use the tools to try and get the cards you need on it fast, and have luck of the draw that you get those tools when you need them. Because I mean, a Charizard deck is so wicked fast that it's, and then once it's up, it's a beast. Because then if you have any, like even me personally, I'll intentionally sacrifice Pokemon because people don't realize that Charizard gets you 30 more hit points for every prize card they take. So you sacrifice a couple Pokemon, you get them prize cards pulled on them, and then you put yours up, and you can just sit there and just wallop everything with it. It's a freaking beast.
This is the one I'm playing right now. It's one of my favorites. I was much like Andy playing a Lugia deck in the last 2023 tournament, and I played that for a while and I really enjoyed it. But now I'm playing basically a Regieleki deck, running some bosses orders here, a Jack, to get some Pokemon really quickly. Run the electric generator to pull out some energies out of your deck and accelerate them onto your bench. So that's a nice little play there. I got a proxy there, Raikou. But then I run Flaffy. So I run Flaffy to help me actually take. So I'll discard a bunch of my energies as I need to kind of draw for like an Ultra Ball. And I'll use Flaffy to pull them out of the discard and put them back onto my bench. Add some extra energy here with a Bravery Charm. You always need a Forest Seal Stone. Why not, right? And then the other big attacker I have is between Regieleki and Miraidon. So I'll run that with a Miraidon. And so Miraidon will let you actually then take the ability and get 2 basic Pokemon and put them onto your bench. So then I can really get my bench full very, very quickly. Then use some of the trainers, then do the evolutions. Then I can slowly build up the Iron Hands. And then, of course, attack with Miraidon, attack with Regieleki, come back in, and then finish them off with the Iron Hands and take double, well, not double, but take an extra prize card. Yeah.
Yep.
So I just told you my strategy, Andy, but I'm still going to beat you. Don't worry.
Who knows what'll happen by then? With this new set coming up, God only knows what's going to change. That's always the cool part about it is how much it can evolve. So we might be running completely different decks by the time that we get to North Carolina or we get to Chicago. So I mean, it's going to evolve. But right now, like I said, I've played both. I've had both built up because I don't have a Flaffy. Hey, think about a Flaffy. That's a good one. For whatever reason, it's
an E though. Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
It's an E.
So I was trying to stay away from E cards. So like even technically I should have escape ropes. I don't have any escape ropes in my deck currently, just because I was getting away from that E. And they're currently, I don't know if there's one coming out in Paldean Fates or in the next Temporal Forces. I don't know. There's no escape rope yet. So
no,
I didn't.
But switch cards should be good for a while, right?
There's a new switch now.
Okay.
I believe that there's a new switch currently.
Because I think the switch card is still good. I think it's F, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. Yeah, I think there's an F. I think, like I said, I think there's one that just came out again. So trying to remember.
We have one here for Scarlet and Violet.
Yep, the Scarlet and Violet one was the one I was thinking. So that we do have one here in the F. So we've got a while on that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, the switch is what I actually have in instead of escape rope, because escape rope was always the standard from Sun and Moon on. I mean, we always had escape ropes. So, but now I got switches in instead.
And I prefer to control. I don't want to give the opponent the freedom to choose their Pokemon, because I may want to be attacking the one that's already in the. That way,
I love my boss's orders, because boy, that will really tick someone off when they're building up a Pokemon back there, and you get that Charizard built up right away. You get them in the play spot with a retreat. Get one of them on a retreat, and then
what I love about what you told me is that those evolutions, trainer discs that we talked about.
Yep.
To de-evolve them once they have the damage, and then just drop like, 2 or 3 of their Pokemon right there on the spot. It's like, boom, they just lost 3. It's like, that was heavy hitter. Yeah.
Like I said, I was trying it, and I tried that out, and it actually worked out really well. So I was actually really happy with those 2 cards I showed you. It once again though, they come too soon. A couple times they came too soon. Yeah. So the one of them, you got to have Pokemon on the bench, or it's worthless. It really just sits in your hand, hoping you can get the basics on the bench. But other than that, it really did perform really well when they came in later into the hand. Once again, it's all luck and timing.
Yeah, the whole game is But I like it though. It's a lot of fun. And if you don't play TCG, anybody make sure you give it a try. Yeah, I started off with the Build and Battle Academy decks or a box, I should say. It was a Pikachu and Cinderace box that they sold, and get one of those. That was my first time playing. That's how I got introduced. They kind of made it very simple for me. Went to grandma's house for like the winter vacation in 2022, excuse me. And that's how I learned. And I was like, this is great. I love it a lot. And then from there, of course, it accelerates. So $20, they'll teach you how to play. It's a blast.
Yep. Then, of course, you could do the Pokemon Online. The PTCGO is definitely a great way to learn. You can do just the ranked, or you can go and do the fun side of it and just enjoy it. And you can build decks, you can buy cards, to build up your decks, to try things out before you actually go and purchase the cards. So you can get a relative feel for how they're going to be, and get an idea for how they're competitive they are. The other one I did not know was competitive as much as it was is an Arcanine deck. Have you played against an Arcanine deck?
No. I've seen a few of them, but I haven't played against one. I mean, it was there when it first came out. I forget if it was the first and second set of Scarlet and Violet, but I saw a few of them, but I didn't see it really catch on. Did you see some power in that one?
I've got one person that was playing an Arcanine EX deck, and they because there's so if you played a Pokemon TCGO and you pick Scarlet and Violet, you get one automatically, like their version of it. But they had a hybrid version of it where they pretty much removed the Charizards out of the version online and added a couple. I don't remember what they added into it. I didn't get a chance, and I didn't know the person that well, so they weren't really. And they were a competitive player. They were actually there for the points, but they were running that day. They were running a EX or a Arcanine EX deck, and I didn't see all the cards because I didn't personally play against them. They were playing right across from me, and I was seeing what they were doing, and they were actually whacking the Roaring Moon decks. Because a lot of people have Roaring Moon decks, and they were smacking the crap out of them things. Like they'd get that Roaring Moon before. They get the Roaring Moon before it could power up. So it was kind of interesting to watch that.
Yeah, the Roaring Moon takes a little time to power up. I mean, that thing is crazy powerful if you can get it in there. I mean, you do a lot of damage to yourself in the process, but man, it's a good one.
It is. I mean, that was always the one whenever I played against the Roaring Moon deck, and that's where Boss's Orders came in the hand because I got my Charizard powered up, got him into the playing spot, and then did the Boss's Orders before he could build up.
Nice.
And then you smack him before he can. He builds up. You're even a Charizard is going to get beat pretty hard on that one. He'll take himself out, but he'll take you with him. So, but
I know the power creep is against us here, man. But I really enjoyed that Lugia deck. I got really good with it.
I know.
That was a fun deck, man. That was a fun deck. I know it was broken with Lugia and Archeops, but it was good.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of missing that deck because the Charizard EX deck is fast, but the Lugia deck was just familiar, and it was broken. I mean, it was a beast of a deck to try and take that thing out.
I really enjoyed that, but I also like the Mew, the Mew Fusion Strike, Mew VMAX, I should say. That was a great deck with the Genesect. It was just a fun deck to play. It was just a really, really fun deck to play.
This was the other one I saw.
Kind of repetitive, but it was good. Yeah.
That's the other one I just saw from Professor Birch that I've been seeing, the Roaring Moon Darkrai V-Star. So they take the Darkrai V-Star out of, and they were using the one out of Crown Zenith, which is that I saw. But the V-Star, it's a Turbo Dark deck that built up that Roaring Moon. I always want to call it Salamence. They built up the Roaring Moon. That was a way that they really powered that up fast. And I think that one. The V-Star, what is it? The Darkrai V-Star can pull energies and put on a Pokemon. I believe it's
something
ability.
like that.
It's like that's the ability. So they built up that Roaring Moon even in the starting position extremely fast. So it was another one, like you said, a turbo deck on that one.
Nice.
So,
thanks for the idea there, Professor Birch. We'll have to try that out. We got a Roaring Moon deck here at home that we're playing. So,
Wailord EX deck.
Yeah. Sorry, Basic Man. You're a little bit out, man. I don't think you're gonna make it with that one. I'm sorry, but I think I can whoop you with my Kyogre deck with that one. I'll just do the traditional Kyogre deck.
Kyogre deck. So, but anyways, are there any other things that you wanted to bring up? I mean, anything on your path that you would suggest to anybody? Any kind of things that you would like to elaborate more on that we've discussed today, so that people have some more information if necessary?
No, I think the only other thing I would touch on is you hear it a lot. I was listening to a good podcast with Retro and Dan recently. He started a new Let's Talk Business podcast. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. Shout out to Retro. They were talking though, and one of the comments they were making, and I hear that a lot, is well, you can't really find the good deals anymore, and they're not out there. And I would say it's not true. At least in the space that I'm working in the business, again, buying out collections, looking at the bulk kind of grind a little bit, mixing that with, a supplementation of grading and some sealed and kind of finding deals along the way. I would really say that they're out there, and don't hesitate to look at the crazy prices or the crazy pictures, ask some questions. You'll typically find what you're looking for, and you can typically negotiate it. It's the ones that, if you see them all laid out nice and neat, and they're, the pages are all kind of laid out kind of similar, that they're reselling them and they've already kind of combed through them. But you can typically find people that just don't want to sort through 5,000 cards. I saw one today. I said, I could get that. 5,000 cards. It was like $150. Had some good hits in it that would have covered at least $100 worth of the main cost. And then saw some decent cards to hit through for bulk. And then I still had 4,000 other cards to work through. And doing the math there, obviously you don't sell them quickly. But 10 cents a card minimum. And selling through 3,000 cards, you can make a decent profit on that. But it's out there. The deals are there if you're willing to do the work. So don't believe some of the naysayers. And if you're looking to follow the path, then definitely it's the grind. But if you enjoy it, it doesn't feel like it. So enjoy the process, use your time wisely, and wish you all the success in your journey in Pokemon.
Yeah, and I saw the same podcast, and once again, it really is where you're looking. There are some really good deals out there. There are some really good opportunities, and the problem is that you see like Retro and Dan, and they are getting very, very tight in a rabbit hole. I want to say they're not looking as far out, and their business ideals are more driven on the graded card market a lot, on those kind of perspectives. And when you're into that kind of thing, I could see how the deals might be drying up. And the other issue you have is that when something comes out, I don't think people are rushing. The hype and FOMO ain't as heavy as it used to be a year ago. So even like we saw it with the classic collection that came out, that Charizard came out, everybody was, even, Josh and Old School sat here and thought that card was going to hold value for months, and that it was going to do really well, and that it was going to be a really high-priced card. And we saw, just as well as everything else that comes out right now in new set, the first month, the first 2 weeks, it's really good price. And then it's a steep curve, and it just drops, and it dumps. And it's like, in 1 month after that's released, you can't grade that card and make the value of that with the cost of grading and everything into it. No. You can't pay for that any longer. And that's the situation that we're seeing a lot of. And now the way that you make money on grading right now, which is where you were talking about grading being still 20 to 30% of your overall business. For me this year, it's probably going to drop down a little bit personally, just because of the time it takes to source cards that you're going to get 10s. Trying to do that kind of extra work is something that I don't really want to take on personally this year, because there's other avenues that I'm having success with that are actually time basis to profit basis are going to probably do better than what we are seeing sourcing grading currently. Do I say that grading's dead? No, I think that there's still opportunities. It's just going to take a lot more work to do it. It's not going to be like those upfront shining star items that, because everybody now in the grading sphere now is all driving to try and find these great deals. So you're literally in a fight with everybody else trying to get those cards when they show up. And that's not the case in bulk. We don't have people beating down doors to try and get bulk cards because they're sitting there. I mean, I can watch bulk cards sit some places for weeks on end for me to make a decision whether or not I want to buy it. There's not the rush. There's not the push. This path is a little bit more lucrative when it comes down to what you can find and the deals that are available currently.
Fully agree. And that goes a long way in many other areas of life too, is where there's a large grind to be had, most people don't want to do the work. And I'm not saying there's not a grind in grading. There surely is. But there's a big difference between grading 1,000 cards and selling those and then sorting through 30,000 cards and selling those. That's just a huge difference. And most people don't want to do that. And it's those technology advances that we talked about here today that help you with the pricing, that help you with the pictures, that help you with the listings, and using things like that then change the perspective to make that much more attractable than just your typical take a picture, put it in the photo booth, and then post it on eBay. If you let the technology work for you and you're willing to do some of the physical labor until we can afford a Roka, and then at that point, it still is very profitable. It's enjoyable, and you can do it while you're doing other things. And for me, I love having this because then I get to have all these cards that I get to build any deck I want to. Share that. I can fulfill multiple sets multiple times over, and it's just fun. And to your point earlier, seeing all of these cards from base set, Japanese, you name it, all the way up to the present, it's so cool to have a little bit of everything and just get to touch it and feel it and see it, and then help fulfill somebody else's playing games or playing goals, I should say, or collecting goals. It's just fun to be a part of that.
Yeah. And that's just it. So I mean, it really is. It's all perspective and what you're trying to do, and what your ultimate goal is, and which path you choose, and what direction you're trying to do in Pokemon. And that's exactly the point of it. Is that each path has its own obstructions. Each path has its pros and its cons, and depending on which one you choose, it's definitely going to be an interesting ride for anybody that joins in and tries to do it. So,
fully agree.
But other than that, like I said, thank you for your time, Pokemon Wonder. Greatly appreciate it for you to re-kick off this and start the Choose Your Path series. Next month we do have Java Akama coming on. He'll be joining us. Nice. So that'll be fun to have Java on here. Best part is he grew up in Hayward. So he's actually grew up right next door to me. That's what we always laugh about. He actually grew up in the same area that I did, so it's kind of interesting. He moved to the Twin Cities, so he's a little bit further away now. But yeah, it was just kind of funny. He saw Hayward on my stuff, and he's like, "Wait, are you from Hayward?" Like, well, I'm close. I mean, I put Hayward on my stuff because that's the biggest town that's close to me. But yeah, I told him the name of the town, and he's Radisson. He's like, "Oh yeah, no, I know wherever you're at. I grew up in Hayward." And, it's just kind of funny,
I love
just talking to him. So yeah, it's always cool when that kind of stuff happens. So probably played against him in Pokemon League and stuff and didn't know it.
Oh, did you? Oh, that would be cool.
I don't know if I did or not. I said it'd be fun. I, not paying attention, it did. So, but yeah, so
probably beat him.
Hopefully.
But no, I'll say the same. Thank you so much for kicking it off with me. Really appreciate the time. A big shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for hanging out, guys. We're running 2+ hours long, so really appreciate everybody's time. And Andy, thank you so much for having me on. Deeply grateful and much appreciated, sir.
Like I said, greatly appreciate to have you on once again. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks everybody in the chat once again, kicking this off and getting going again. Like you said, we got some people working into the schedule here, and I'm just going to kind of announce the next one as we keep going. I want to keep suspense so people can just next month, February 20th, we'll be doing the next one where we'll have Java online, so he'll be on here talking about his path and his success in the Pokemon TCG, and then I'll announce the next one then. So you guys get to have about a month's worth of suspense before we get there. So otherwise, thank you everybody.
Smash those buttons, everybody. Smash the like, smash the sub, and show some support and love for Andy here.
Absolutely. Thank you guys, everybody, for doing that. Make sure you hit that like button before you leave. And otherwise, we will see you next time here on Northwoods TCG.
Thanks, guys.
And we're off.
Perfect.